Righty. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Very fun day considering one, I just heard myself talk and I literally just freaked myself out. I forgot I had a separate tab open for YouTube to make sure everything sounded perfect. So I literally just scared myself by talking to myself. So that was fun. But welcome everyone to another live stream of Entertainment Talks. Today we're going to do our continuation of Working Brutal Part 2. Today we do have our guest speaker and a great, fantastic friend of mine, Brandon Leland. For anyone who may know of his work, he was in a band called Till I Fall. If you still don't know about that, they are based out in California. All the links and information about his music and going on from there is all in the description below if you ever want to check it out. Everything is on Spotify. He does also have some independent solo work as well right now. You can also find on Spotify. I don't know if I necessarily link that on the bottom. If not, we'll be talking about that today for you guys anyways, so you can go ahead and find his work to continue supporting him and doing everything you need to help out local musicians and musicians all around. But without further, I'm going to bring on Brandon here real quick. Unmuted yourself. Perfect. All right. So our conversation here for today, the reason why we do have Brandon joining us today as a special guest speaker is because there's a lot of people who are very unfamiliar about what actually goes on behind the scenes of being a musician or working in the entertainment industry. A lot of people take being a musician, in my opinion, they really take it for granted, I feel. And feel free to definitely jump into this, Brandon. But I personally think a lot of people go into playing music, which is, everyone can go into playing music, that's fine. But I think when it goes into starting up a band, people always have the impression of, oh, it's easy. I just find some people who just so happen to play the drums or play the bass or play the guitar or who claim they can sing. Everyone will figure out why I said claim to sing here in just a minute. It's like being a photographer. Everyone can do it, right? But people, I think, have the wrong mindset a lot of times going into starting up and creating a band thinking it's easy. And I think it's a lot more difficult than a lot of people really see it as. But this is where I'm going to lean this a little over more to you, Brandon, to talk a little bit more about your experiences on, starting up a band, like the process of going into it, what it's actually like, how much work goes in. But yeah, so what is your opinion here a little bit more on actually like going out of your way to find people to start up a band? Like, was it easy in your experience to find other people, or maybe it was different for you because you already had some friends that that played music? But like, was it really that simple?
Well, first off, thanks for taking time to talk to me, Justin. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, for me, music and just like performing in general started at like a really young age. So like I got into, singing and doing theater, literally in elementary school. And that's really where it kind of started for me, So by the time I was in middle school, I was very comfortable just kind of, finding ways to just do open mics or talent shows or whatever. And then through that, I started meeting, literally in sixth grade, I was in my first band. And, it was just because I did a talent show and I sang, and I would always, any opportunity to talk about music or, like performing in class for extra credit or like whatever, you know what I mean? Like I would just take any opportunity to kind of like be that kid, in school. And so, by the time I was, 12, 13, 14, I had friends that were just all of the same kind of nature, if you will. You know what I mean? Like kids that did theater or kids that were taking guitar lessons or drum lessons or whatever, and just wanted the opportunity to play some Blink-182 songs or whatever. You know, so then by the time I got to high school, it was kind of the same thing, you know, like, because, you know, like once you start meeting, you meet 2 or 3 musicians, and those 3 musicians each have 4 or 5 friends that each play an instrument. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, like now you have a community, you know? And so, so that's really how it just kind of went, you know? And then in high school, I went to high school. I grew up with, the dudes from Stick Up Kid, you know, and like they were, Bo McDowell has been my best friend since I was like 2, 3 years old.
Wait, you
and
know Stick Up Kid as well?
Yeah. I grew up. I mean, Tony was in my first band. You know, Tony and I played.
Dude.
Literally, the first show that I ever played was at our middle school, and it was on Valentine's Day. And he and our buddy just played Blink-182 songs during lunch in our gym.
I think like, one of my very last shows I've played with my old band was with Stick Up Kid.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, awesome band, great kids. You know what I mean? Great dudes. Like, literally grew up with all of them. You know, John. You know, so to answer your question more, man. I mean, once you start going to shows, like you're gonna meet people. You know, and like now that it's starting to be safe to go to shows again, and their local community's starting to do shows again and stuff like that, like if you're somebody that wants to play music or just be around that environment, best way is just go support local shows, open mics, you know, anywhere and everywhere that's doing music. If you just go, I guarantee you'll meet a bass player, you know, or a drummer, or, you know, somebody that's like, yo, like I play this instrument, but I want to play in a band, you know, like that's easily the best way to just meet people that want to do that.
I mean, I think that's probably I would definitely agree with you there, because I know a lot of people kind of go with the impression and the mindset of be like, oh, well, I mean, it's not wrong. There's no wrong way to look for artists and musicians. I mean, that's why we have like Facebook groups. We have like Craigslist musicians, which be careful with if anyone ever uses that, please.
Yeah,
I've made that mistake so many times growing up. And not that they were like bad musicians or like artists. They all did very well in a sense. But it's just Craigslist in general. You don't know who you're meeting. So like I feel like it's a lot more comforting. I mean, it's easier for me to say because I love talking to people and meeting new people. But if you're a musician and an artist, yeah, exactly what Brandon said. Go out to local shows if possible. I haven't had the opportunity to do that since I've moved, which is kind of a bummer, but I mean, the time will come, and plus I worry about getting sick and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, the best way, I would definitely agree with that. You never know who you meet, and it's absolutely fantastic, but it's also obviously through, you know, connections and for me, for my band, I ended up meeting my drummer through I call him my producer pretty much, but he'll be on the show here sometime soon. His name is Jeff Tretta. He runs Blue Exit Audio out in the Phoenix metro area. Fantastic person to go to if you want like music recorded. But because of him, I was able to find my drummer, but I already knew him because my brother knew him, and it's just connections all around. But I think there definitely is a better way of really, you get to know people on a more personal note when you are watching the same bands as they are as well when you're at a show. And then you get just to randomly talking to people, be like, oh, dude, that song was so sick. And I'm like, yeah, let's go buy merch, whatever. Like, it happens all the time, and that's what should happen. Support your local artists. Buy their merch, please. What else are they living for if you're not buying their stuff? You know, they don't create music just because they want to. If anyone ever takes that out of context, you know you're the problem. Artists only make music because they like. So it's more of a benefit to help them buy their stuff. I know the struggles as well. We're like, hey, we don't have money. We have all these shirts now. So like, please buy. We mark them down from what, like originally $25 that like per shirt. and then we're trying to sell them if we're lucky for maybe like $10. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. But I think finding the proper connection with people too. It's like you can be friendly with somebody all you want and you can have the best time hanging out, but still doesn't necessarily mean it's right to be in a band with them, which I find very fascinating, and it's something I've been through so many times. And it's just a matter of growing up, I think, and just really understanding like what personalities click with you. Um but like, do you think that's more of an issue as like who you really click with, or do you think it also like goes a little bit deeper on like, oh, are they into the same genre? Or do they listen to the same bands of me? But like, obviously, you can have diversity and stuff there. Be like, I'm more of like a punk kid, but I was in a band with more of like a metalhead, like straight up like hardcore metalhead. And then I was just like, well, how do we mix the two together to find like a common band we both like, for example, or something.
Right.
And I know those creative differences are probably one of the hardest things, because people always want what they want, right? They're like, oh, I want to play this style, and they're like, well, I don't like that style, I like this style, so where can we meet common ground? But a lot of people don't think like that.
Right.
So in your professional opinion, like, what would you say would be the easiest way to really find common ground with other people who have different artistic criteria in mind, or a different approach to how they may want to play music? Like, how do you find that common ground?
That's yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
So first off, like in terms of chemistry within a band, right? Like, I have, Till I Fall had probably, I mean, off the top of my head, probably like over the course of when I started that band and, where that band was, whatever, there was probably like nine to 10 different musicians that came and went within that band. You know what I mean? Like, I went through 2 different drummers, I went through 3 different bassists, I went through 5 guitar players, I went through 2 other vocalists. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very long process. And I think that is, like, at one point in time, like, each one of those people were my best friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, because to me, being in a band is it's a very, it depends on what your goals are, right? Like, if you just want to have a band that you get together with your friends and just kind of play some songs, like, hey, that's totally cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's a fun, casual type of music experience, and that's beautiful in its own, right? If you're trying to be, in my opinion, right, if you're trying to be like an artistic band that writes original material and like has kind of like a deeper goal or something like that, to me, the chemistry is huge because it's an intimate experience and you are sharing, your raw feelings. It's supposed to be a safe environment where everybody should feel excited and inspired and free to share their creative input. I know that when I was younger, the genre of the band was the big deal. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it was like, no, I want to be in a pop punk band. I want to be in a punk band. Like, I want to, like, this is what I want to, be a part of. And I realized that I was chasing approval from a community rather than doing what I artistically was more organically inspired to do, you know? And I think that with Till I Fall, I think that, from 2016, really, right around the time that Zach Avila became like a full-time member, that is when Till I Fall kind of went from that like more casual, fun, weekend band to like, yo, we want to write some like more deep, like personal type records, and then that's when it really kind of became like something else, right? You kind of evolved to that next level for us. And with our members, at that point, it was Zach and I, Like we had lost the previous people we were playing with, due to creative differences, due to I think that for those people at that time, like, we were younger. There's more pressure when you're 21, 22, 23 to kind of like, your parents are a little bit more involved and like giving you pressure on like, well, you can't do this, like you can't do that, like whatever. So I think there was kind of a lot more pressure on some of the other members at that time, right? Because when you're young, it's kind of like, that's just how the world is, unfortunately, right? And
Yeah.
so for us, we were kind of like, no, like we want to kind of commit to this a little bit more. And so we were fortunate because, through that community, right, through that music community of playing other shows and going and supporting other bands and that type of thing, we already kind of knew some people we could call, and so we were in the middle of writing and recording our self-titled record, which came out in 2016, I think. 2016, 2017, sometime between that
Something
year,
like that.
sometime around then, you know, and so we were a three-piece. So we got our drummer, Scott Daimler, who I knew through the Street Drum Corps, and he's an excellent drummer. And we were just kind of like, okay, well, we need a drummer for this studio session because we're in the middle of recording our record. And when he came in and he started playing, the first song we tracked with him was Handbasket, and that was the first song. And he had probably a day to listen to these demos. And he literally sat, I will never forget this. He sat in the studio, he listened through all the parts once with the metronome, and then he was like, all right, cool, yeah, I get the general idea. And he played through the entire song and tracked it, like, and it was pretty damn near flawless. And we did a few like small punch-ins here and there and just kind of smooth it out and everything. And by the end of that session, that's how it was for him with every song. Every single song, it was just a natural chemistry thing. And so by the time the day was over, he was leaving. He was like, hey, like, can I come back tomorrow? And we were like, yeah, sure, why not? And so by the end of the week, he was our drummer. And it was just something that happened naturally. And what was crazy about that was that was something that happened unexpectedly. Like we, to be totally real, like we lost our drummer in the middle of the first day of recording. It just didn't work, and so like we had to make a decision, and it was tough, but like we had to keep going. And then we found somebody where that natural chemistry was there, and that's how it was when we got Anthony, our bassist. Like when we jammed together, like that natural chemistry was just there, and it felt good. You know what I mean? And so based on that positive chemistry that we had as friends, we had a mutual respect instantly. Because it was like, all right, like we each take our position as musicians seriously. Like let's take this to that next level. And there was creative differences for sure. And it wasn't something that, just to be completely real about it, the way that the writing process was in that band was, Zach and I wrote all the music and the lyrics. And then we would take the song once it was formatted and kind of written, and we would take it to practice and we would show the guys and be like, all right, this is the song. Like, these are the parts, and we would allow them to have their creative input with their instrument. And then what you heard is what you got, you know what I mean? So, and that's how that worked. Now, having gone through, a few years of playing together and everything like that, like, it's chemistries and goals and what you want as individuals, but then also as individual creators change, and then when that happens, then you kind of have to face this moment of like, okay, well, are we gonna keep creating together, or are we gonna kind of have to find other outlets where we can get that fix of what we're trying to create now, and so that's the crazy thing about being in a band, right? Is that like the creative inspirations and that creative chemistry, and it's just like everything else in life, right? Like sometimes, for me, it was Transit, the Joyride record. Like that record was my 2019. You know what I mean? Like I got onto it super late, mind you. You know what I mean? But like when I found out about that record, like that was it for me. It was like it helped me write so much, and it helped me feel so much. To be honest with you, now I don't even really listen to pop punk anymore. I don't even really listen to that world anymore. And I think for me, what happened was that I got like obsessed. You know what I mean? I got obsessed with the touring and with the that particular piece that gave me that creative chemistry. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes when it changes, you just gotta listen to that other direction. You know what I mean? You just gotta be like, all right, well, I'm gonna put this down for right now, and I'm gonna see what comes out of this new thing. And if you can find, people that can adjust and ebb and flow with you through those creative times, you know what I mean? Like if you can find a group that's able to say, okay, like, yeah, let's try using these samples in this song, and then let's build off that. Or like, hey, like, let's build a song around the drums first. Like, let's see how that goes. Hey, instead of playing at 160, let's try writing a song at 70 BPM and see how that goes. You know what I mean? Like, I would say finding that is more difficult than just finding people that you get along with that, want to learn some songs. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that kind of answer?
No, that definitely makes sense.
For
I just
sure.
also find it a little bit more fascinating, like how other people write their music. Because I know, for example, here in the Discord server as well, and I hope it's okay for me to bring you up. But one of our community members, Tori, she just recently got into writing music again, and I know how much she loves singing. I know she's tried out for. I think it was like the voice, I think she tried out for and stuff like that. And honestly, like for people who'd go out of their way to do stuff like that, I think like that's a lot of courage right there. Like personally for me, I would not be able to do that. That would be too much stress on like even for like me. And for someone who has been, performing live for many, many years as well, who has done podcasts, work in the radio industry, who does all this stuff on a day-to-day basis, and I still don't have the courage or the nerve to do something towards that level because there's so much like I feel like there's more judgment based upon that. So I definitely want to give well, you know what? No. I want to give a shout out to Tori for actually like having the bravery to do something like that, because I know a lot of people don't. And regardless if you end up like making it through or for some reason it's like a pass, the fact that anyone can go out of their way and do something like that, I think is phenomenal. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because she's also getting into the point where she's writing her own music again.
Mm.
Explained that because of writing this new music and everything, it's been helping her mentally significantly, and I really connect with that. Not only writing music, but writing lyrics, I think does help with mental health significantly. There's something just so, I mean, like you mentioned before, it's so personal, it's so raw, it defines who you are as a person, all the words that you just jot down on random note and paper. And there's something so satisfying about the different techniques that people go out of their way to write music. I find even more fascinating. So like you mentioned before, and you already talked about like your style of how you kind of went and approach the situation once it comes to writing music with Till I Fall and everything like that. Now actually, before I actually get deeper into that, did you guys, when you were writing, did you start off writing the music first, then the lyrics, or did you do the like lyrics then music, or was it a little bit like a both every now and then?
Uh, it was definitely both. I mean, I went through this crazy like creative kick. I don't know what it was. But I just went through this thing where like I was just writing constantly. I was obsessed with poetry. I was obsessed with just writing. And I would
Yeah.
listen to artists. I was really into Miami by Anderson .Paak. I was really into Venice by Anderson .Paak. I was really into Tupac's entire discography. Uh, Joyride by Transit. But I was just going through this phase where I would just write all day long, even if I was at work, right? Like I would just like pull up my phone, just write. And so a lot of the poems that I wrote ended up being either like for our last record, for All I Have, like we did like interludes and stuff like that, and we had like a few of my poems on the record. But like sometimes I would take some of these poems to Zach and I would show him, and he'd be like, yo, these are sick, like we should use these in a song. And I didn't even have the intention of using them in a song. It was just something that I was like, at one point I was thinking about writing a poetry book, and I was just because how much I was writing. And he really liked them. So I was like, all right, like let's figure it out. And so, you know, he would at a later point in time, he would show me something he was working on, and it would just kind of spark this kind of like mood. And then I would go to my poetry book and I would just kind of flip, and I'd be like, all right, well, how about this? Like, does this kind of fit this mood? And then we'd kind of piece it together like that. Other times, you know, he would have a progression, and he would just kind of be like, yeah, you know, like playing along to it. If he would have a lead, he would show me that, and then I would just kind of be like, all right, well, let's write some lyrics to this. And sometimes I would just kind of write an entire song and then bring it to Zach, and then he would be like, yo, this is sick, but what if we try this, or like he'd help me, you know, because there was a point in time where I could just kind of write choruses. And so I would have like 5 or 6 choruses written, and then I would take them to Zach and be like, yo, like which do we want to kind of expand on? And at the time he still is he's a great guitarist, but also he's really good with his theory. And so he would kind of see, okay, well, we've got these chords in this progression, so like we can go here, 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 and then we just kind of expand it from there. And so yeah.
Huh. All right, so we got some comments here actually. Let's see. Quinn, it is far harder than most think. That was a comment towards like starting up a band and stuff like that. He said, I make music first, but once in a while it's all at once. See, I find that very fascinating because I can't do that. Like I can't make everything at once. Like, since I'm a guitarist and vocalist, I have to write guitar first. If I don't have guitar first, I don't know what it is, but I've been trying to work more on my my lyric skills. Obviously singing skills too, but lyrics have to come first, obviously. But I've been trying to narrow down exactly the kind of feel I want for the lyrics. You know, what do I want them to be about? Then it's just also like, what words do I want? I'm looking up things in like a thesaurus. I'm looking up things in like different meanings for like words and stuff like that, because I want to broaden my vocabulary as well. And I don't think a lot of people, in my opinion, I don't think a lot of people do it. I'm sure there's a decent amount who may. But if I... Calling me. Someone for Virginia. I've never been to Virginia. Stop calling me. Spam call. Cool. And always in the middle of work.
It's probably about your car's registration, bro.
Oh, about the car I no longer have that I sold before I moved? Yeah, probably. Even though they were right down the street from where I lived. But what was I saying? Right, so the style that I've been trying to write lyrics in is a very peculiar way from what I'm used to. Because I used to be just like you were saying before, I used to just strictly just write everything pop punk. But now I've been listening to bands I never thought I'd be listening to. Like, I listen to a lot more hardcore than usual. I mean, I've always been a hardcore kid, but a lot more metal music, different genres of each, or I should say subgenres of each genre. And trying to figure out new techniques to write. But I don't know what it is, but my brain cannot figure out lyrics or any words at all unless I have music first. Like, there's not even, like, I can't envision, or, like, I can't, because I need a melody first, is basically what I'm saying. If I find, like, a really cool hook for a song that I'm playing on guitar, or really cool, like, rhythm or lead part, then I'm like, all right, that's really cool. Then I start developing that. But I need to have my guitar part before I can even start to begin on lyrics. If I start lyrics first, I will immediately throw out the song. I will not even bother, like, continue working on it. And it's such a weird experience that other people can do it the complete opposite way and still sound phenomenal. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you have the lyrics first? Like, I wish I could do that, because lyrics are the hardest in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yet again, I play guitar every single day, so that's a little bit easier for me. But anyone who can do it the opposite way, good on you. You are the real hero. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of them are just a little bit more creative.
Mhm.
Quinn, being a solo artist at the moment, I ended up having to adapt to learn all these new instruments and tools. Yeah, I think for something like you, Quinn, I think it's definitely been. I like the idea of being able to challenge like oneself as well. So if you can, like, even though I don't like writing lyrics first, I try to force myself to write lyrics first, even if it's just for like, free writing and just writing down nonsense, just to be like, all right, now can I come up with a melody over that, and then can I make the melody into a guitar part? So there's different ways I have to think about it. But I think the main reason why I don't like writing lyrics first is because my brain has a tendency to force the lyrics to to perfectly meet how I'm going to write the guitar. So I feel like it limits my creative writing freedom in guitar. Everything just feels so much more forced. Or if I write the guitar part, then it's like, well, lyrics don't have to be the exact same pattern the guitar is. It's just as long as it's in the right time signature,
Uh,
then
you,
I'm okay.
you know what I had to learn, because I feel you. I totally feel you, and it's something that I struggle with for sure. But what I'm learning, trying to learn, struggling to learn, is that uh, don't stay married to stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if, but because so I about 2 years ago I bought Logic. Right, I invested in Logic Pro, got my first MacBook, like all that stuff, and so I started making beats, and now I'm starting to write the majority of my songs in in that kind of format where I build all the music first, right, and then I'll just kind of loop it and then I'll write to it.
Yeah.
Or I'll outsource, right? Like I'll hit up some of my friends and be like, hey, do you have any guitar loops? That's how my first, well, I put out a song in May called Daydreams, and that's how I built that one, right? My buddy Bo McDowell, I asked
Yeah.
him if he had any. I actually, that's a lie. I told him that I wanted to build a song like No Halo by Brockhampton. And I was
Okay.
like, yo, like I really want to write a song like that. So like help me get some guitar parts, because he's an incredible guitarist. He can just kind of write. He can piece together progressions like nothing. And so within like a day or two, he sent me like the main loop for that song, and then I built the beat around it. And originally, I wasn't going to write or sing to it. I just wanted to try and license the beat. Um, and then I was listening to it, and I just started writing to it, and yeah, that is, it's tricky because sometimes I'll write stuff, and I'm used to grabbing my acoustic guitar and just building a song around 4 or 5 chords. You know what I mean? Just having that be that, and then tracking the guitar and then writing to that. And now that I'm writing like full music pieces, I find kind of like what you were saying. Like I'll write the music and be like, I can't think of words that fit this melody right. Or I can't find a vocal melody that fits well with this lead line that I wrote for this chorus, and they're kind of little challenges like that. So when I say don't get married, like sometimes I'll just erase stuff, I'll just be like, all right, well, this is too distracting. And then I'll just erase it, or I'll just mute it, and then see if it works with whatever I write. And then it comes down to, for me, I dwell on trying to serve the song, right? Like, okay, this song isn't all about my vocals. This song isn't all about my lyrics. So I need to make sure that that I'm making the best song I can, right? And I'm not taking away from any part, right? So like simplifying the kick, or simplifying, the lead line or whatever. There's more aspects to it, right? So like sometimes I get thrown off from being able to write certain things, but then a month or two will go by and I'll be like, all right, well, I want to write some stuff, but I don't have any music that's really inspiring me. So I'll go back to my folder. I'll, 10, 15 instrumentals, and I'll just be like, all right, like, let's see if I can hear anything different now. Because sometimes a new song will come out and you'll listen to it for a month or two, and then you can go back to something old and you'll have a new idea.
That's definitely very true there. Quinn, lately I've been doing audio opposite, so they don't match at all. But you throw a third thing in that melds the two to create a cerebral feel. I don't think I actually properly understand what you mean, man. I don't know if it's just my brain being slow because, like, I'm tired.
Are they saying sometimes if you have like two pieces, like adding that third is the thing that can help take it to where it's supposed to go?
Probably. Yeah, I'm sure he's probably like typing something out. I know he's working on a project right now at the same time, so I definitely want to give him a little bit of time. But some things I actually wanted to mention. There's, for all the times that I've interviewed, same temp, same chord amount, different tones. Oh, okay, I gotcha. So that's kind of the third element elevates it. Oh, okay, I gotcha. So that's exactly what Brandon thought you meant. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, you were right. Good on you, man. For some reason, my brain's like, I don't know what these words mean.
No, hey, but that's absolutely true. You know what I mean? Like, sorry to cut you off, Justin.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah, I mean, like your friend's saying, like, absolutely true, because sometimes, like, the thing that saves me is my Echo plugin on my Logic, because sometimes I'll have something cool. I'll be like, this just doesn't feel right, and then you just add the slightest echo or the slightest plug-in to it, and it can change the entire vibe. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's as simple as it is.
Crazy how like I think my other issue is that I do not think simplistic. I think too technical.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that is what actually, it's like, it doesn't hurt me, but it like, I feel like sometimes it stunts like opportunity.
Oh yeah.
It's
that's real.
It's not a fun feeling. But yet again, like my brain's like, oh well, it sees itself as a perfectionist, even though I know by all means I'm nowhere near, and nor would I ever want to be. But it's just really annoying because I think, and I know this is kind of leaning in a different level as well for the topic here, but music also the way you develop and create music, as everyone says, is based upon the individual, right? But it also goes based upon the individual's mindset and how they think and how they work. And for me, having ADD and having a form of OCD as well, I know that plays a role in everything I do and everything I write. And I just have a whole folder on my computer of just random guitar like tones and different guitar tracks, and some of them sound awful, some of them sound cool, but I just keep all of them there, even if I hate them, because I can always pick and choose different notes that I like, and then just go down that list and be like, all right, you know what, that progression was kind of cool, but what if I actually mold this piece into that piece, and I go to my audio editor and I just start piecing things together, and it literally ends up becoming like a giant puzzle. So that's something I've had to teach myself, because when I didn't do that, I would just throw everything away. I wouldn't even bother, because the way my brain is just like, no. And it's not just artist syndrome. I mean, that's part of it too. But everything has to be so precise. I have to have like that perfect tone. If I'm not finding the tone, then I get like agitated very easily, and ADD doesn't help with that either, because then my mind's like, oh, let's just do something else instead, because OCD is getting annoyed, and now I'm getting annoyed. And I was like, no, I want to write music. And it's like, why? You're not having fun with it. I'm like, I'm having fun. I'm just aggravated because I haven't found what I want yet. So
I feel
That
that.
mental portion of writing music, I
Yeah.
think, is the main struggle for all
Oh yeah.
musicians.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Not being able to tour and not being able to travel for like the last year and a half, like that killed my creative flow.
oh
Like
yeah.
I didn't write a song for probably like 6 months, 7 months. And like being totally honest, like I've been trying to work on a record for a while. And like there's some days where I can sit down and I can write a chorus that I'm really happy with. And then there's a week that'll go by where I just, because I struggle with depression and anxiety. And the voice in my head is just telling me that everything I write is just garbage, and so it's a constant battle of like I'll write something and in the moment I'll be like, yeah, like this is sick, like this fits well, like I like the syllable count, like it's all, it flows really well, whatever. um but then I'll read it again or I'll sing it again or whatever, and I just hate it. And then I hate myself. And then I'm just like, this is garbage. Like I have written the best songs I'll ever write. Like at this point, you know, I'm just clinging on to hoping that I can, like write a hit song someday. But, like that's garbage. You know what I mean? Like that's awful. Like we can't give into that, and there's
No.
and going back to the simplicity of it, like that's what it is. At the end of the day, we're just kids playing in a sandbox. It's like we don't need to worry about reinventing the wheel. I mean, like I love watching interviews with like Rick Rubin. He has this wonderful series on YouTube. Anybody that ever is like struggling with inspiration or just wants to get some insight on, Rick Rubin's been putting records for like 30 years, 35 years. Like he has touched several genres. He is an artist in the purest sense, and he always says like it's all about just sitting down with an idea and just going from there. Timbaland says all the time, it's all about simplicity. You can find TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Like there are videos everywhere where he just talks about it's all about simplicity, and it's also knowing about when to walk away. Set aside a 4-hour window to write, and maybe you sit down and the first 15 minutes is just awful and you are so frustrated. All right, cool. Like you still got 3 hours and 45 minutes. Walk away for 25. Go listen to a record. Go listen to a record, sit back down, see what happens. Like for me, one of the things that always helped was this was like my secret sauce, right? This just helped me every time that we would decide, all right, like we've got 1 or 2 songs, like let's write a record. What I would do is I would go to Rasputin Records off of Bascom Avenue in San Jose, and I would buy 3 records that I had never heard. And I think when what was it, when we were writing, I think it was the self-titled record. The 3 records for me, if I can remember correctly, were like they just left my mind. It was like Third Eye Blind. Oh yeah, okay. It was Third Eye Blind. It was the Motorcycle Drive-By record. Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen.
Hell yeah.
And then the Marshall Mathers LP2. And those are like my 3 reference records. And those were all that I would listen to until the record was done being recorded. And those were my 3 reference tracks or records, right? And that was all that I would listen to. And it helped me so much. And then when that stopped working, it would be books. I would choose 2 books, and those would be my reference books for, obviously not for how the record would sound, but in terms of writing material.
Yeah.
Like one of the last single that Till I Fall put out is called Walk With Me. And I wrote it about the Inferno by Dante. And like at the beginning of the song, it's the whole abandon all hope, ye who enter here. And it's literally just about like the reflections of like life now compared to what that book was about, and how like he interpreted traveling through hell and like my own life, right? And so it was like a reflection of that. Stuff like that can, you know, if you're a songwriter, you don't only have to get influence from songs, right? Like
Yeah.
The Sopranos. Like I binged The Sopranos for like 3 months straight, and I ended up writing some records, you know. And it wasn't, obviously it wasn't about The Sopranos, you know what I'm saying? But it's hearing emotion, right? It's watching emotion. It's watching things happen, and then you as an individual, you're gonna have your own feelings watching these shows, right? Watching this TV, watching this film, whatever it is, you're gonna have your own feelings. And then before you know it, you're gonna start reflecting about other things in your life. And then before you know it, you're gonna start having your own things that you want to say about those feelings, right? And it's thinking about songwriting in like a bigger picture than, you know, obsessing over trying to write the next, I don't know, Welcome to the Black Parade, right? Like if your goal is to write the next Welcome to the Black Parade, you're going to hate everything you write. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
if your goal is you want to write a song that makes people feel, you know, sadness, or you want to write a song that makes people think about people that they've lost, you know, okay, now that's a feeling. Start with 3 notes. Start with finding 3 notes that can represent that feeling to you, and then build from there.
Yeah, just write in all minor chords. You'll be fine.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Or start with your scales. You know what I
Honestly,
mean?
that's
Yeah.
how I for a song that I wrote. I don't know how many years ago I wrote this, but I wrote a song called Blackwell. It started off being an acoustic, and then I ended up implementing it into when I was still in Without Hero, and a lot of people really, really love the song because it's the one time. Because normally, Without Heroes is more of like it was a punk band,
Mhm.
but this was the one song where it had more raw emotion in it. It centralized in the feeling of the vocals and the lyrics. The lyrics were simplistic. The instruments were even more simplistic, but I wanted to make the song stand out a little bit more based upon how it was actually sung. Till this day, everyone I've ever talked to, anyone who's ever listened to it, agrees that it is my saddest song I've ever written. And the only reason why I have Blackwell is because of a very popular game. Actually, a new portion of the game actually just came out. The game's called Life is Strange. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Nah.
So I don't know much really overall about the game. The only thing that I do remember is that it's this whole storyline of this girl and her life. She has a superpower where she can literally reverse time, and it kind of got me think. There was a scene when Life is Strange like just came out, the very first game. There was a part of the game I was watching. I think I might have been watching like JAGZSXE play it or something like that. And I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers play it, and then there was a scene where this girl, one of her friends, got bullied to the point where I guess they were in school. The school is called Blackwell Academy, which, ironically enough, is, you know, centralized in Oregon. From my understanding, at least, because when I drove out to Oregon for the very first time, I looked it up, and apparently there is a Blackwell, Oregon, which I think is really cool. But the scene of the video game is this girl ends up, you know, just for, I mean, I'm not monetized, nor probably will I ever be, so I really don't care what I say here, I guess. She ends up getting bullied to the point where she goes on to the school's rooftop, and, well, you do the math from there on what depression unfortunately does to a human being. But this girl is seeing this, and since she has that superpower to reverse time, she rewinds that moment, or you have the option to rewind that moment to see if you take different actions in the game, and based upon the choices you make, will it actually affect and change what happens? But from the gameplay I saw, no matter what option they chose, it was the same outcome. And for some reason, that hit me so hard. I remember watching that. I remember crying. And for some reason, it hit me so much more on a deeper level because of, when I was younger, I felt like I understood the feeling of it. And so I wrote a song about it, and reason being called Blackwell. And then I remember writing the lyrics, and the interesting part of this is I remember the emotional aspect of writing the song, but I do not remember actually writing the song. My brain has no memory of actually sitting down and writing this song, which ended up being one of the most not famous by any means, but like one of the most favorite, I think, only because it hit me so much more on a personal level, and it was the very first song I've ever written 100% by myself as well. So I take very great pride in that song, and I still have a hard time actually playing it live. Every time I play it, like I feel my eyes tearing up and everything. It's like when Corey, I cannot compare these two by any means, but what I can only imagine is when Corey Taylor of Slipknot plays Snuff live.
Oh yeah.
That's the closest thing I can consider that emotional level to. I know what Snuff means, and I understand why it has more of a significant value to him for losing one of his best friends and family. But and I get my inspiration from Corey Taylor too. Like the older I get, I listen to his vocals. I'm like, God, this guy is amazing. And that's where I also got a little bit more of the sound from Blackwell, is because, especially for singing, is because I listened to Corey Taylor's his techniques, and I listen to people break down his vocal techniques, and I love his voice so much, so I started working with that. And going into that, that's why I started doing more cover songs, and I started covering Snuff, because I wanted to figure out how to get my voice to that level. And so I just found an instrumental version of it, because I don't know how to... I know how to play it on guitar, it just won't sound as good recording-wise yet. So I found the instrumental, high-definition quality, and I just recorded vocals over it, and that's how I'm teaching myself professional vocals now. I'm
sick.
Listening to high-end artists that highly inspire me on their vocal range and their techniques. I know I can't go higher. I can more of that low mid-range kind of feeling, and that's how I'm working right now with my vocals. And then with guitar and everything, that's a completely different thing. I don't go to Corey Taylor for his guitar and everything. For guitar, I don't know what I've been listening to, but more hardcore music. I listen to a lot of blues, so I mix and match a bunch of stuff. The creative process of writing is so unbelievably infinite. And a lot of people will be like, everything has been done. And it's just like, that is impossible. I'm like, it's just to me, music is like space. You don't know, we can't comprehend how much more is out there, because our minds can only comprehend so much.
Right.
And being that creative process, I think, is why I love music so much, because you take bits and pieces in microscopic areas, and then you just mold them together, and it's something no one has ever heard. And that's why a lot of the bands we love and cherish, and that play, by all means, these gigantic world-renowned tours, that's why they're able to get there, in a sense. Leading into that, before I actually state this, Quinn mentioned some extra stuff here. He said delay pedal for me. Dude, I love it.
Oh yeah.
I don't have my amp or my pedal board anymore, so I invested in Amplitube. So that's how I get all of my tones and everything, and I use it for guitar and for vocals, which I found out you can just do vocals on them. But I've been using that, but I love the delay pedal. I do love that. I have a whole ass folder of random EDM tracks I wrote on my keyboard. Yeah, dude. I feel ya. For me, I hate hearing my voice, even though I have a fair voice. That's the hardest thing. Like, people are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get into like singing, and then you have two types of people. And this reverts back to when we just started this live stream on where I said everyone thinks they're a vocalist. You have people who go into it who are like, all right, I know I'm not great at it, but then they progress like no other, and you know, they work on it every single day. They find where their range is, and they go out of their way to perfect their voice to what works best for them, right? But then you have other people who go into it, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've been in some scenarios and situations where I've been in some bands where people thinking they can sing, and, you know, regardless of if they get, you know, if they train what breathing techniques, if they have professional lessons, whatever it is they do, some people just aren't cut out for singing. I'm going to put it that way. Just like how some people aren't cut out to play guitar. And it's just got to find your comfort. And it's not to like... I've heard this before, and a lot of people... Well, in my opinion, a lot of people, you know, have told me, they're like, dude, like, you're a little too brutally honest. You're kind of like the Simon Cowell, like, of like local artists. And I was just like, look, man, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to be like, hey, you can work on this. Like, I hear potential when I hear potential, right? There's some artists I listen to for the very first, for great example, my very first time hearing Circa Survive. They're huge band. First time I listened to Anthony Green sing, and I'm like, this dude is trash. And I'm like, this dude cannot sing. And then I started listening to it more and more and more. And I was just like, oh my God, I love his voice. And it's just like, it's interesting where the brain separates vocal patterns and vocal frequencies. And that's what kind of depicts us being like, oh, hey, this is really good. Or no, this isn't good. But it also mixes with genre and stuff too. But it's singing, you know, is not easy. Straight up right there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, singing's not easy at all, man. Now, you know, just to piggyback off that thought, I am a strong believer that everybody can sing and everybody should sing, right? I do believe that. And that's only because I think singing is, like, at the end of the day, right? Like, singing is, it's more than just singing, right? Like, it's like emotionally, physically, like, it's more than that, right? And so, like, I always encourage, like, sing, you know, sing wherever you're comfortable singing, you know, like, you may not have a voice that everybody likes, right? But that's secondary, right?
But
like,
it's
if
your
you're trying
voice.
to cut records, right? 100%. And that's exactly what I'm saying, right? It's like if you feel that in you, and the way that you want to release the way that you feel is by singing, sing that, you know what I mean? Like, do it. And what's crazy, well, not crazy, I mean, it is crazy. What's crazy is that nowadays it really doesn't matter if you can sing or not.
Welcome to punk rock.
Let's be real. Like, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like, you can auto-tune that. You can create a sound effect around your voice that fits musically. You know what I mean?
It's like, called reverb and delay.
Artist, I mean, it's called auto-tune. It's called Melodyne. It's called, you know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
I use reverb and delay
editing
for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
It's good editing. You know what I mean? And so, like, if you want to be an artist, you can be an artist. You know what I mean? Like, just because your voice may not be the best place for an opera house or like an open mic setting, right? Like, maybe that's not your vibe. But if you've got something inside you that you want to get out verbally through your words and through your voice, what I would honestly suggest is just get either get comfortable with performing live and just say, you know, screw it. Like, I'm doing this for me and don't care what the feedback is, 110%. Or just get really good at editing. Get really good at vocal editing. You know what I mean? Like, because I'll keep it 100%. There are so many artists that I cannot stand vocally. But lyrically, I'm like, you know what? Like, for me, for a long time, it was, I think it was Juice WRLD, who, like, vocally, I was just like, I am not a fan of this guy. But lyrically, I'm like, you are an artist. Like, you are writing things that need to be heard by people. And so it's like, you know what? The presentation may not be a perfectly wrapped gift with a bow on top, but at the end of the day, you know, if underneath all that is something special, like, do it. Just find the means that's going to fit you best for what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, because nowadays, because you're right, singing is hard. Singing is really hard. And it's hard to be able to do at a level that people expect. Because nowadays, people, you know, Ed Sheeran sounds wonderful on his record. He sounds flawless. You go and see him live, he sounds pretty good, but he doesn't sound like he does on his record. And that's because these artists who have good voices get edited so perfectly that they sound flawless. And then everybody else thinks, oh, well, if I want to sound good, I have to sound flawless. And it's like, nah, that's not really what it is.
It's like listening to A Day to Remember almost.
1,000,000%. Oh my God. Yeah. The way that he does his growls and all that stuff, like they edit that in a certain way to sound incredible on their record. Live, yeah, like it still sounds cool, but it's not, you know.
Yeah, it's nowhere near that level of production.
No, not at all. I mean, the way that they do it is incredible. You know what I mean? They auto-tune his growl to the key of the song, and then they do like 2 other layers of the growl and they pitch them so that one's super, super low and then one's the middle, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got this like rainbow growl that sounds beautiful. And you're like, how did they do that? Well, that's how. You know what I mean? It's editing. It's knowing how to. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on that matter.
Yeah. Hey, welcome, Skull. Welcome. Yeah, because I also wanted to say, like, by all means, like, I do not see myself as a fantastic singer by any means. It's just me constantly working every single day to get a little bit better as much as I can. You know, I've only been singing for, oh man, before Without Hero, I had a band called Down the Shore. Before that, I did some I did some vocals in a post-hardcore band. One of my very first bands. It was like a Census Fail like rip-off band.
Nice.
I love Census Fail though. One of my all-time favorite post-hardcore bands and artists. But actually, they just released a brand new album too that I'm getting ready for. But you know, I've been singing for quite some time, but learning the proper techniques of screaming and everything myself. I used to be in another metal band a while back, where I was the vocalist, where I was doing all of the screams and everything like that, and obviously implementing clean vocals. And I'm by all means no expert on singing in general, but especially when it comes to screaming. For anyone who wants to get into that, please do your research first before you start doing that. The level of pain, if you do it wrong, exceeds anyone's expectations. I've seen what the damage looks like. I've heard what it sounds like. Oof. And just please be careful if you're trying to do that. And do not just start off trying to scream right off the bat either, from what I've learned. You have to make stupid, silly noises. You got to do your breathing techniques. There's a very certain way you have to do this. And it's all in, like, your gut, too. Like, do not use your throat. That's why, I think for the longest time, Kellen Quinn, he was also, he almost lost his vocal cords, like some supreme damage to them because of the way he was screaming, even though he has, and I'm almost certain that he's had professional, you know, a professional teaching him, you know, the right way to do all that for years. But I know he got to the point on his early stage, I think, where it almost got like way too bad to where he almost completely lost his voice. He would just have to like stop singing altogether. He could barely talk. Thankfully he's better now, but I know a lot of people don't like his music. I just recently actually really got into some of his work. For anyone who doesn't know, he's and I really hope I'm getting this right, but he is the vocalist for Bring Me the Horizon, yeah?
Kellen Quinn?
Yeah.
I'll be 100%. I have no clue, but I know his name.
If I get this wrong, I'm going to feel so ashamed. Because I don't like the new...
Not. Wait, hold on. Who's Ollie Sykes? Who's that guy? That's a guy, right?
No, that's
That's a
Ollie
person.
Sykes. No, Kellen. All right, so it wasn't Bring Me the Horizon. Sorry. I mean, the same thing happened to Ollie
Is
too,
that
actually, for Bring Me
is
the
that
Horizon.
Circus Survive? Is that
No,
Circus
Circuit
Survive?
Survive is Anthony Green.
Oh, right. Wait, what am I thinking of?
What band is he in? Oh my God, it's
Yeah, see, man, it's been a long time.
Sleeping
It's
with
been a very.
Sirens. There we
That's
go.
the one. Yeah, yeah, they're good. Sleeping with Sirens is sick. I've
Yeah,
seen
I
them at
know
Warped
he
Tour
had
once.
some issue with his voice for a little while. Ollie Sykes, from Bring Me the Horizon. Yeah, I know there was a point in time where he had some stuff with his voice going on as well. God, I should have known that. It pisses me off, and I'm like, everyone's
You
gonna
know
be like,
what?
really, Caliquin from Bring Me the
That's
Horizon, and I'm like, I'm sure they've
yeah.
done work together. Shut up.
I've got there's some friends of mine that if they heard this and they knew that I blacked out on those guys' names, they'd be like, "You're a loser,"
I'm
which
not
is fair.
I'm not a metalcore person. Look, I'm just gonna put it out there.
Oh, hey, I
However,
haven't gone to Warped Tour since 2014,
same.
so I mean,
I've been at Warped Tour in the beginning stages of when, pretty much when I was like born, and then when I
oh
got
yeah,
to the age where I was finally able to go, like early 2000s, I was just like, oh hell yeah, I'm all about this, and I've
yeah,
worked
oh
Warped
yeah.
Tour. I mean, like,
I went for 7 years, dude. That was my jam. I loved
yeah.
Warped Tour, but then
Um,
it just kind of went downhill.
I'm part of me is like, you should have known that, and part of me is like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect both bands equally. I mean, the fact that they're as large as they are now, I'm like, they did something right.
Oh,
So,
dude, no, that's not even a disrespect to the bands. That's just, I mean,
yeah,
come on. Like at a certain point, because that's the thing, dude. I mean, I was the kid growing up where I had everybody's photo. Like I would literally spend time on Google printing out photos of bands that I liked, and I would just staple them to my wall. Drove my parents crazy. They hated me for the longest time.
dude, I did the same
But
thing, except I would buy CDs and I would hang up the album
oh
covers
yeah,
and stuff.
oh 100, absolutely. No, it was wall to wall, my man, and it
Yeah,
was just
same.
plastered everywhere. And there was a point in time where like the band members, their birthday, where they were from, like anything and everything I could learn about these people, I would. And then you start realizing, it's kind of obsessive. Like maybe I should find something else to do, like learning an instrument. That would be great. So I did that instead.
Yeah. Quinn says, I've done live stuff before. There's no problem there. It's a personal critique, but the way I play makes it seem unique. And so I hate it, but I love it at the same time. Yeah, I feel that very on a more personal level there as well. When I first started playing music, and like for me now listening back to how I used to sing and stuff, I'm like, it was cringe. I was just like, oh my God, this is so bad. But then I remember and I'm like, I was little. And if I wasn't doing that, I never would have gotten to where I currently am today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's
Yep.
the progression. I love seeing the progressions. Like, yeah, like the things I've done in the past, yeah, it sucked and it sounded like 5 million walruses dying, but like, I mean, it wasn't that bad. In my brain, might have been, but
It wasn't that bad.
it
It
wasn't
was
that
not
bad.
that bad.
No, in
No.
my head, it might have. But seeing where I was in the past and seeing where I am now and spending so many years trying to perfect myself in any way that I see and label as perfection,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy with where I am because I'm actually no longer really playing, like I still play punk music, but the album I've been working on for many months, almost to like a year already, the album for my solo project called Life Size Mirror, which is a shout out and a huge reference towards one of my favorite artists, No Use for a Name, aka Tony Sly. But the album's called Old Western Melody, and there's a reason for that because if you listen to the first song I've ever written for that album, Burn Red, it has a very old school Western kind of sound. And a lot of people be like, oh, you're playing country? No, it's not country. It's Western. There's a huge difference. I mean, like, I can't use this as an example. Johnny Cash had like some country in him, but I see him more as a Western artist.
Mm-hmm.
But You know, it's more of like a different style. Like I'm so used to playing like hardcore metal or punk, and this one is more of like a western song, and then another one I'm creating has more of like a gypsy kind of like side to it a little bit. So I'm getting more out of my even more info of my creative like influx. Is just like there's so many varieties of genres that people forget about, and I'm experimenting with those genres. It's like how people forget. It's just like, oh, well, pop music has always been around, and it's like, do you know where it originated from? And people are like, no. And I'm like, have you ever heard of the old school pop music called bubblegum? And people are like, excuse me? I'm like, exactly. I'm like, pop came from oldies. Where do you think like people got their inspiration from? In one way or another. I love teaching people about like the old school like music, and people are like, what the heck is bubblegum? They're like, what's like, I had someone ask me, they're like, what's doo-wop? And I'm like, excuse me? And I'm like, it sounds exactly what you're saying. They just say doo-wop a million. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot more that goes into that, but like the intricacy
man, I won't lie.
of that.
The other day I said crooner, right? Like crooning, right? I said that, and somebody thought I was like being disrespectful. They're like, "Yo, what did you just say?" And I was like, "What? Like, what? You don't know what crooning is?" And they're like, "No, what is that?" I was like, "Oh my god, we have lost." Like, and it, it sucks, man. Like, it sucks. But think about it like this. Also, like, the number of genres that there are ridiculous at this point.
Oh, it's stupid. Yes.
Like, it is stupid. Remember when what was it called? Dubstep? Remember when dubstep was everywhere? I was like, this is going to be the shortest lived genre since disco. And it pretty much was. Like, that was cool for like 2 years. You know what I mean? And it's because constantly music's evolving. People's tastes are evolving. And like, that's dope. Like, that's the wonderful thing about music. But the unfortunate thing is that, really pop music, if you will, has only really been a genre for, like you're saying, right? Like maybe 70 years. Like maybe like 60 years, you know what I'm saying? So like, unfortunately now there's so much that we're going to start losing parts of history. You know what I mean? Like more or less, like it's not really going to be a thing. And it's crazy to see how fast we're burning through all art and culture.
Oh yeah, first.
Like it's crazy. And it's sad. Like it's scary. You know what I mean? Like I'm somebody that like, I grew up, Elton John was like, he's one of my favorite artists of all time. He was the first concert I ever went to. Super like special artist to me, you know what I mean? And now seeing people just discover Elton John because he did this remix with Dua Lipa is like driving me crazy.
Wow.
I'm like, are you guys like, he has come out with some of the greatest songs of all time, in my opinion, and it's like people are just now starting to figure him out, which is great because maybe they'll go and explore his catalog. You know what I mean? Like maybe they'll check out Elton John now, but yeah, like there's so many pieces of really important art and culture within the history of music that are getting forgotten, and it's a bummer to see, but it's also like everything else, right? We just keep expanding and keep moving forward. We have shorter attention spans. Yeah, it comes and goes. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's also really interesting because for some of the other shows I've done for my online work here as well, for my series for Sound Off, I mean, I've talked to Yotam Ben-Horon from Useless ID, an Israeli punk artist. I've had the opportunity to talk and chill out with some of my other really good friends, and like Knockout Kid from Chicago, A Step Ahead, Skull Drug. I've done something with After the Calm.
Nice.
There was supposed to be a lot more bands. I couldn't get through all of them because, well, like I mentioned before, the show started here that I just kind of had a mental just kind of like issue where I was just like, I can't do this. And I may or may not come back to it. I don't know. Maybe in a different way. But like talking to all these different bands and everything, is the reason why I'm bringing it up, is they've all explained exactly kind of like, not to a T, but kind of like what we're discussing here about like the upbringing of music, where people are today, you know, their style of like writing music and everything. And it's very, very pleasing to me, like all these different techniques that people are stating, because from everyone I've ever interviewed, from anyone I've ever talked to, there's always a different story on their creative process and their creative process in, you know, their upbringing in music, what they used to listen to. And it's just so fascinating. Some people are brought up with strictly like classical music. Some people are only brought up strictly with like old school rock and roll. Some people were more into like, you know, if you're a little bit younger, then maybe more of like an indie artist or something like that. I don't know. But it's the one thing I've always loved the most is the true diversity of artists themselves, and the processes that they've taken in order to achieve the level of happiness as a musician and as an artist of where they are today. However, it does bum me out that a lot of these bands have, in some sense, have stopped because of the pandemic and everything as well. I mean, it's one thing that kind of hit me a little bit as well. I mean, other issue is being that I moved, but but you know, I'm doing my own solo project now. I know you have your own solo project coming out. Thankfully, a lot of the bands out in Arizona, I know some are still kicking and doing well. My friends in After the Calm actually are, they just finished up filming a new music video, I believe. So I definitely want to actually see if I can just talk to them in general. But you know, I like seeing that it's not a plug for them, or I guess it is, but it's nice seeing local bands creating more new music. But there's a reason why I'm also saying this, because speaking of new music, you have new music coming out for your own solo work.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I
you
do.
have
Yeah.
some current stuff currently right now actually on Spotify. If anyone just looks up Brandon Leland, if you don't know how to spell it, is in the description and the YouTube video. But he does have his own stuff on Spotify. Please look that up. From what I can see right now, you have 3 singles out right now, one being Daydreams. Looks like that may be... so that was this year. 2015, you released something called Curtains, and then your latest release is Liquid Novocaine. When did you release that one? Was that more recent this year?
That was, oh yeah, hold up. What day was that? September 24th, I think. Yeah, I think that's when that came out. Yeah. Yeah, so that was, yeah, so Daydreams and Liquid Novocaine came out. And then, yeah, this Friday, Out of My Head is going to be coming out. And that one was actually, you know, we were talking earlier about like writing and stuff like that. That one I made the music for, and I couldn't hear anything on the beat. I just couldn't hear any vocals or anything. So I sent that one to my friend Marcus Oreo, who he's a songwriter and performer based out of Las Vegas, and he wrote a verse to it. And then I sent it to my friend Hannah Bowers, who's out in Los Angeles. She's a great songwriter as well.
Yeah.
And she put the chorus down, and then I like put it all together, and then I like fell in love with it. And I was like, well, hold on, like I'm gonna make some room for me right here. So then I just I wrote a verse for it as well. And yeah, this song was actually the first song that I wrote in lockdown. And it's very much about, you know, I think we all kind of wrote, I mean, you know, we literally wrote our own pieces without really knowing what the other person was going to write, except for me, right? But it really kind of came together to kind of be this, for me at least, it's kind of this, it really represents lockdown for me. You know, like I lost some friends, I lost some family members, you know, not to COVID, but just because of how that separated everybody, you know what I mean? At least in my life. You know, that's, you know, band members, you know, that I went on tour with for years that don't even talk to you anymore, you know what I mean? And same with family, you know, politics gets in the way, or lifestyles get in the way, disagreements get in the way. And, you know, just kind of, it really kind of shaped how I was feeling about myself and how I was seeing relationships and my world, you know. And so that song's very much special to me in that regard. You know, all three of these singles that I've put out this year are really special to me because they're the first things I've done since Till I Fall. um, and you know, it's just it's new to me in terms of the genre, right? Like it's very much like more commercial type pop, indie pop, and
Yeah.
that's a whole new realm for me. So it's been scary putting these out, you know, and working on them, but it's been really exciting and fun. And I'm hoping to have more singles next year and maybe even an EP of some sort.
Now, my question is to you, and I wrote this down too because knowing my ADD is flaring up a little bit today. So just to make sure I remembered about this, since I know you're still out in California, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Since you're out in California, I'm out in the Pacific Northwest area now. A lot of work is being done online nowadays since a lot of band members still sometimes can't get together or different artists can't get together. Would you be, just for the sake of entertainment and for having fun, whenever we find time possible, would you be down to just write like a song together?
Oh, absolutely, dude. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I have my microphones here if want to do any vocal work. I got my acoustic, I got my electric, I got my MIDI keyboard. Like I got
Awesome.
everything all together here. I know you have more high-tech programs and everything on your end, so I'll probably be leaving, if anything, all that stuff up to you because I don't know how to mix I mean, I know how to mix vaguely, but I'm based upon the work you have, it definitely sounds a lot
Oh,
better than what I have.
no, no, no. Don't even get it twisted, man. I don't mix my stuff.
Oh, you don't?
No. No, 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 no. Carl Banner is the producer that I work with. He
Shout out to him.
actually, yeah, he mixed and edited Addictive by Till I Fall as well as Walk With Me. And he's mixed, he's got an awesome team. He's got a great team that he works with, that do, you know, vocal editing. He'll mix the record, and then he has somebody he'll send it off to for mastering. And
Does
so
he do your
he's
solo project too?
yeah, so he's doing everything that I'm. So basically, what I'm
Oh,
doing is
geez.
I'm doing all the tracking. Yeah, I'm doing all the tracking on my end, and I'm creating all the music. You know, I'm EQing, I'm doing all like the instrumentation stuff, and then I send it to Carl. He mixes it. He does that next level. He's a great producer, man. Highly recommend him for you or anybody else listening. Um, and then yeah, and then he'll send my vocals to his buddy Lucas, who he does great work as well. And like what you're talking about, right? They all live in different areas. The guy that masters the music, his company's called Panorama Mastering, and he's based out of the UK. You know,
Oh,
so
geez.
it's pretty, yeah. And Carl's out in I think Pennsylvania, I think. So you know, it's all over the place, and that's really cool to do. You know, it's really cool. I had the opportunity to work on a song with a friend of mine. He's a hip hop artist based out of Johannesburg. His name's The Specialist. He's a great artist, man. And there's no way I would have been able to ever work with him otherwise if it weren't for the ability to just send files. You know, met him over Twitter. Now he's a friend of mine. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
use the internet to your advantage. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, definitely.
so yeah, absolutely. Send me a message after this, and we'll figure that out for sure. What do you record out of?
As I For vocals, I used to only strictly use like Audacity, but I'm using
Oh,
Amplitude
sweet.
for everything now
Cool.
because I found out, I mean, being able to literally simulate any amp I've ever wanted that's ever been created and exists is in this
Oh, that's wild.
program, including any pedal you can think of. You can fully, I might as well be like, I'm not a spokesperson for Amplitude, but Amplitude, please sponsor me. Oh my God, I
Hey,
love
get
your
it.
product so much. I know I don't deserve it, but um,
Get it where
I
you
use
can.
it for everything.
That's rad. I'm gonna check that out. Actually, yeah, send me a link to that because I need. That's one of the things, right? Because everything that I work out is stock for Logic. But I found a few freedrumkits.com. They have a lot of free stuff, and it's pretty rad. So I'll grab stuff out of there from time to time. But yeah, they're great. There are a lot of great sounds that you can download nowadays to really help, like with what your friend was talking about, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a plugin that can change the whole vibe of something, right? Like it's as simple as just changing the tone of something, and then all of a sudden you have a whole new line of inspiration.
All right, so I'm going on to Facebook right now. I'm going to send you the link there. There's a new version that came
Awesome.
out for Amplitude 5. I'm still currently using 4. I don't think it's that expensive. I think it's only 150 for the entire program.
Oh, sweet.
So you get your own key. It can be used up to multiple people as well. So, for example, like my brother uses it, who's lives in a different state, but he uses it. I can use it simultaneously as well. He uses it for creating his bass parts. I use it for vocals and for guitar if we ever decide to kind of randomly write music or if we just want to like play. But something definitely for anyone to really look into. Fantastic program. And it really goes into detail. You can change out the speakers, you can change out the microphones, you can change out the amp type, you can change out the pedals. Anything you can think of about manipulating an amp or vocal pattern is in this program. And it's not only just for that.
That's
I think
sick.
they have their own IK Media in general has a lot of stuff for like drum beats and stuff as well. They have stuff for piano. Like just look into it. They have a ton of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. But
Okay.
Quinn just sent you a message on or an email of a song. I'll definitely look at that a little bit later, man. There's something else I wanted to bring. Well, here we got. One thing I did want to bring up as well, and to let people know as well, since I guarantee I'm gonna forget to mention this. Starting, and I mentioned this to the community already on Discord. I just mentioned this to Brandon as well, and a couple of other people. Starting January of next year, being 2022, I am going to be taking a quote unquote break and a step away from live streaming and from making videos. There's just, I don't know how long I'm gonna be gone for. I'm still gonna be active in the Discord community since this is where I just hang out with you guys. We play video games and stuff together. So just more of a chill area more than it is about my show on here. There's a lot of new things I want to focus on. I want to focus on creating music. I have a brand new job that I really want to focus on more. Obviously trying to spend even more so time with my wife, given the opportunity when we have our days off and stuff. And there's a lot of new things I would like to do. I know some people have been annoyed about a lot of changes I've made, but get over it. I need to do things for myself, what makes me happy, and creating music with other musicians and stuff is what makes me happy as well. Trying new projects, new artistic advances in my own weird little way. But yeah, next year, I don't know exactly when, but that'll be coming to a pause. But I'll just be hanging out with you guys on Discord. The only reason why I'm bringing this up now is because we also, for the whole entertainment talks thing, originally I was planning on having to be a whole live stream session. Where as of now, it's not really meant to be that. It's just more of to introduce people into the behind the scenes look of what the entertainment / music industry and world is actually like. I want to teach people and have other professionals help me teach other people, which is why we have Brandon on here to, professionally talk to you guys about being in a band, touring, which we'll get into a little bit more too. But, we'll have different professionals on here to talk about all of the things they do professionally that make the entertainment and music industry possible. without people like Brandon, without people like, and yes, shout out to all these people coming onto the show before January as well. So not only Brandon, but my buddy Jeff Tretta from Blue Exit Audio, teaching you guys more about audio and professional audio recording. The music video production recording, shout out to Jacob Reynolds, fantastic videographer. For booking, organizing shows and festivals, we're going to have Paul. He is the owner of Dead Winter Festival. I've worked with him a couple of times. I love his festivals. For music blogging and journalism, we are going to have Joe Meyer coming in here, or I hope I don't get your name wrong, buddy, but Joe, or as I know him, Every Show Joe. That's kind of just what I call him. I just call him Every Show Joe. And then managing and working at a music venue, we're going to have my buddy Nima, who helps work at Rock Bar out in Scottsdale in Arizona. And then we do have another really great friend of mine and a large YouTuber on here, and a fantastic music creator and beat maker. D9 will be coming onto the show soon as well. So if you are into making beats, Brandon, be sure to stay tuned for D9. You and him will get along just fine.
Absolutely.
It's all he does. He live streams every single day on YouTube. He creates beats. He plays classic, old school, retro, like video games and stuff. That's his thing. And I love his music. I love his beats and everything. He got me into beat making, which another reason why I bought my MIDI keyboard. But eventually we'll have a guest on here talking about the radio industry and the life of being a DJ and host in the music world. I don't have anyone just yet. If anyone knows anybody that would be interested who runs their own, and what I mean by radio is actually on radio, not like a, I mean, it can be local too, as long as it's on like air on like FM radio. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I tried reaching out to Mo, who helps out with 93.3 Alt AZ. So I'm trying to see if we can get her on there. If not, then try to see who else we can get. But if you guys have anyone in your area that's on the FM radio that you may have contact with, that you think would be cool to get onto the show, or anything in the entertainment industry, if you think they hold some kind of value for educational wise to come onto the show, please let me know as well. Because that's why Entertainment Talks exists, is to teach you guys about the behind the scenes of people who make, well, all this possible. You know, without people like Brandon, we wouldn't have insight on what, you know, it's actually like starting up a band, what it's like touring, what it's like creating your own music firsthand. A lot of people don't get to see that, oddly enough. People just watch it on YouTube, be like, okay, I got it. No, listen to what someone has to say in real life. I feel like it holds an, I said hads, combination of holds and adds. All right, add that to the dictionary, Webster. But yeah, it holds more value and adds more value, and it has more like personalized meaning, in my opinion. But eventually all these people will be coming on to the show. We'll have live streams of them. But then hopefully what my goal is to have you guys also every now and then come on to the Discord server as well. If you guys ever want to make videos of the work you do, or if you want to have like in private talks and stuff with the students in the Discord server as well. Just if people want to learn how to write, hopefully one of you guys can come on and teach them how to write. If someone wants to learn how to mix audio, we'll have someone for that. It's more for fun. We have different goals. We have different projects on the Discord server now that I've been organizing. So if anyone's ever interested, please join the Discord server as well. If you would like a link to it, I'll be sure to add the Discord link to the description after this live stream as well, because I realized it's something I didn't do. But please join. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, having a lot of high-end professionals. Yes, they may be labeled as locals, but you can have local professionals. But please join if you would like that opportunity to work with these professionals and talk to them a little bit more on how to maybe get yourself in, you know, a job, or maybe if you live in the same state as them, maybe you can get an internship with one of them if they're hiring. Um, I'm a huge believer in internships. I teach a lot of people professionally about business and about internships and how to work your way into the entertainment industry as well. I've been doing this for over 13 plus years. If you ever need any help, please feel free to ask me. Feel free to ask any of my guests as well. They know what they're doing. That's why I have them on the show, because I see them as high-end professionals more so than myself. Which is weird to say, but also I'm a strong believer in that. So just wanted to make sure I get that out there before anyone says anything. I just want to make sure everyone is clear, just so we have everything neat and organized. But that's what the whole show is about. That is kind of what's going to be coming your way soon. One thing I did want to bring up specifically to you, Brandon, however, is kind of reverting back to writing music and onto the topic of writing styles. It's very, very vague on what I mean here, because writing styles is more of like a umbrella term, if you will. Everyone has their own style and how they're going to write. Everyone has different. It's going to be based upon individualism. It's going to be based upon how their emotional standpoint, what genre it is, influence, you name it. But specifically for you, since you started writing music to where you are now, what have you found out that works best for you in a matter of how you write your music? Is there a certain process you have to go down, or that you've kind of been able to figure out and implement into your life now as an artist that you may have not figured out in the past, that just works significantly better for you, that you believe may also help benefit other people who are just starting off and trying to get to, more of a quote unquote professional standpoint of where you are now?
Right. I think that what I have learned the most over the last 2 years is that you need to nurture songwriting. I can't, right? I don't know how other people are, but for me, I can't take songwriting casually. Because if I take songwriting casually and like being an artist casually, then you're going to, I get bad results. I can't do that. I can't go about it subtly. And that's been the thing that I've been struggling with the most the last year and a half. When you're in a band, and when you work in a band and you contribute to a band for 5 to 10 years, that becomes your identity to a degree, or rather it did for me, right? It became part of my identity, and so when we would sit down to write a Till I Fall song, I would be in a certain headspace, and I would know which part of my emotions and my, Kanye West calls it your chakra, right? Like knowing which parts of that part of you to access, right?
Yeah.
Since kind of going to working primarily, on my own for the majority of what I'm doing now, what I am trying to navigate through is figuring out okay, which part of me, or who within me am I accessing now to write these new songs, right? Being adjustable, being understanding to yourself, being kind to yourself, is super crucial, because like I said earlier, right? I'm struggling with mad imposter syndrome, struggling with mad criticism of everything that I write. So there are days where I just don't write because I'm just so mean to myself, and having to unlearn that voice and learn to be more kind to myself. If you can get ahead of that before you get too deep in your songwriting journey, you'll be doing yourself a favor, being open to, there's no right or wrong way to write a song. You know, that was something that Zach and I would always talk about when we'd write Till I Fall songs, is there's no right or wrong way. Like, just start putting pieces together. Start with one thing,
Yeah.
and then see what comes next, right? Like, don't worry about writing for the whole orchestra. You know, just start with the piano. Just start with the cello, right? Like, whatever your tool is, like, just start with one little piece. You know, if you work out of a DAW, start with you know, the drums. Start with just one lead line, whatever it is. And just keep it fun, you know, keep feeding that exciting part of music. And that's something that, you know, when you struggle with writing like I have, like, it starts becoming, you know, it's that bully at the end of the hallway that, you know, you have to walk by him every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, how, like, is he gonna smack you on the back of the head? Is he gonna trip you in front of the girl that you like? Like, you know, it's gonna embarrass you. It's gonna make you feel bad. And like, so I would just put off writing. There were weeks where I just wouldn't sit down and just wouldn't. I teach music lessons. That's what I do for a living. You know what I mean? So I would go through my lessons, and as soon as my lesson's done, I'd put my guitar down. Just that would be it, you know? And that's because I created it in my head as this torturous, negative fight. And keeping it fresh, keeping it exciting, that is, in my opinion, you know, that's been the biggest struggle for me, you know? And so in my opinion, that is one of the hardest things as somebody that wants to write music for the rest of their life, and or do it professionally, you know, is finding the ways to keep it fresh and fun, you know?
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
It's really strange, like, also to like really think about, in a sense where you think that as an artist, and say, like, I mean, for me, for example, like, I play guitar constantly, and when I feel up to it, I'll sing occasionally. But even if you're just starting off, to even if you've been doing this for years, I still find it really, really strange that it never writing music never really gets easier. It just kind of like, in a sense it does, because you've been able to progress a little bit more, and, you know, kind of identifying like what you want a little bit more, and it becomes a little bit easier in that sense. But writing music still always gets to the point where everyone always just looks at it and they're like, huh. And it's weird as artists that we see it as that, like, just that reaction overall. We listen back to it, and it's just like, I like it, but, you know, there's that follow and be like, comma, but, and then it's just like, I do, and there's all these what if questions that come into play. And I know that's just very, very common for artists in general, regardless of kind of art you create. But
Yeah, you can't get caught up in what ifs.
yeah, and that's always
You
the
know?
hardest part. It's just like, all right, yeah, I made this. And then you're like, wait, but what if? Like, what ifs aren't bad. Just, you got to know how to, like, limit them. Because if you keep on that, trust me,
Yeah,
you'll
I
go
feel
down
what you're saying.
a bad, like, rabbit hole a lot of the times.
A big something that I would really say, just to interject real quick, is that if you're wanting to start a band, if you're already in a band, if you're a songwriter, whatever you are, right? Like, I was somebody that I still am very goal oriented, right? And so I have 3-month goals, I have 1-month goals, I have weekly goals, right? Something that helps is setting goals that you can for sure control, right? Setting a goal of, like, I want this song to hit 1 million streams. You can't control that. You know, like, you can't control that unless you have $100,000 behind you in marketing, and unless you have people that know exactly what they're doing. You cannot control that. You know, like, you just can't. So set goals like, I want to tour 20 states next year. I want to put out 10 songs next year. I want to shoot a music video. You know, because those are things you can control. And if you focus on the things you can control, you will feel so good about what you are doing because you are doing it. And that's the biggest thing, that if nothing else that I say matters, the only thing that I would really encourage to anybody starting a band, because I got caught up in it, you cannot overextend your goals. And I'm not saying don't shoot for the moon. Do it. Like, do it. But understand that there's certain results you cannot guarantee for yourself. And if you're holding on to a guarantee you cannot secure for yourself, you will be hurt. and it will discourage you, and it will break your spirit. So focus on the things you can control, right? Focus on how many songs you write. Don't worry about if they're good or not, because you know what may not be good to you as the songwriter could be beautiful to somebody else. And so it's just it's creating the habit of just accepting who you are as the artist in that point in time, because who you are as an artist is going to change. You know what I mean? Like, think about any artist that's been around for more than 20 years. They have changed since their first hit, you know? But stay true to you, find the vibe that works well for you, and just feel good. Feel good about what you're doing. And I need to take that advice myself sometimes.
I definitely. I know the issue with me is that, like, I want to do so much and I don't know where to really always, like, lean towards. Like, part of me is like, oh, I want to start, like, as of right now, as of lately, I've been, like, in the mindset of, oh, I want to start, like, a brand new band from, like, scratch. And I'm like, do I have time for that? And now it's just like, well, I know my wife wanted to write some music with me. And then I was just like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do that. Which I still want to do. Which on any future upcoming songs for Life Size Mirror, I'll have her recorded and everything as well. And then eventually we're going to get to the point where we're going to start doing live shows and stuff, and, open mic nights we plan on doing. But the issue is, obviously, as you get older, is like, where do I find the time to do all this stuff? Now that you have, like, a family, or you have a full-time job, you have a lot of things going. It's like, where do you find the time? And a lot of people would be like, I don't have time to write music anymore. Do not have that attitude. You have I guarantee you have at least an hour of a day to just play guitar or to write something, or whatever instrument it is you're doing, or if you're singing, whatever. Everyone has an hour, at least a maximum of an hour, to do something. And at least you're getting
100%.
something in. And you can't just use the excuse to be like, oh, well, I don't have any time. And it's just like, yeah, you do. You complaining about it right now is your time to be doing it.
Yeah.
Like, all right, absolutely. There you go.
Absolutely. It has to be a daily thing. And sometimes you fall off, and that's cool. Number one, you have to feel good, right? You have to be in that space where you feel good, because you can write about depressing things, but make sure that you're not beating yourself up to do it. And that's something that actually my girlfriend's taught me. She's a mental health advocate, and she has taught me a lot about, before I can even write anything, before I can even, like, be in the headspace to create, I need to feel good, So, like, now I'm starting to learn, like, create a little routine for myself that I, get my non-negotiables, as she calls it, right? Like my ABC, that no matter what I do every single day, I need to do those things, right? So for me, it's like working out. I need to get my workout in. I need to have my breakfast, and I need to have my coffee. Like, that's what I need to do, right?
Yeah.
And it works. It works for me. Some people, it could be meditating. Some people, it could be going for a walk. I really, really endorse physical exercise. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, climbing, lifting weights, boxing, whatever it may be for you. Like, find something that is physically good for you. Find something that's mentally good for you, and then create your vibe for you, create that energy. Put your phone down, put your phone on airplane mode for 2 hours,
Yes,
don't look at it, throw it across the street for 2 hours, and then, come back to it. Because Google or Instagram will be there,
Actually, another thing I want to talk to you about as well, which I know is, like, the main thing right now. For being a musician, do you think musicians have it harder now that we also feel like we have to compete on the entertainment aspect of it, of online entertainment? We have, like, YouTube, we have literally all social media, we have live streaming programs, we got to make shorts of our music, we got to get our information out there for more of promotional advertisement value. Do you think this has, obviously, in a way, it has helped out significantly with a lot of artists and everything, but with a lot of artists not playing live shows anymore, do you think it's easier or more difficult for them to gain recognition online compared or contrast to if they were to be playing in person, and have you experienced that?
Awesome question. Two things. First thing is you, and I don't mean to like point you out for it because I
Oh,
totally
go ahead.
understand.
I don't care.
But you use no. You use the word competing, and I see so many things in that way. But I've had to try and train myself to not see everything as a competition, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole the competition, the competitive headspace, like cool, save that for the hockey rink. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where you can be competitive. But like every other aspect in your life does not need to be competitive. And I started seeing things that way. I started seeing other bands as competition and not as friends. You know what I mean? I started seeing people that were doing better than us in other cities as enemies and not as like friends within a community. You know what I'm saying? Whether or not I actually knew them, but I just saw them instantly. It's like, all right, that's who we gotta take them down. We gotta be better than them. And that's so foul, dude. Like, and that's, you know, like that's the unfortunate thing about, you know, I'm going to go on a whole nother rant here,
Oh,
but
go
that's
for
the
it.
unfortunate thing, in my opinion, about our society in this country, right? Is that like everything is instantly a competition. And it's like, not everything has to be seen that way, you know? And so I think that if we view social media and social platforms as competitions, then 100% it's going to be terrible. And we're going to, it's an awful approach. You know what I mean? But if we just look at it as a, like, I'm starting to get into TikTok, right? And like I am somebody that I do count views, I do count, you know, follows and that type of thing, and I have to stop doing that because it's defeating the purpose of trying to be a creative, right? Like I might as well just study analytics and go and do that.
That's
You know
what
what
my
I mean?
community
Like,
has been telling me for years. They're like, Jags, please just stop worrying
dude,
about the numbers. Like,
and
why
it's
does it
real,
matter?
man. It's real. It's
It
real, you know,
is.
because then we're getting caught up in something else and we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? Which is
Yeah.
creating. We're not feeling that. You know, I've got a buddy who he did the artwork for Out of My Head. His name's Vincent Paragano, really nice dude, and he says to me all the time, it's the most uplifting thing. He says the world needs your music right now, and it's so rad when somebody says that to you because you realize, like, you know what, I may not have a million views, but I've got 5, and you know what, there are 5 people that are taking in what I'm putting down right now, and that is all that I'm serving a role with my lifetime. There's gonna be somebody else that's gonna do this as soon as I die, and that's cool. Like
Yeah.
because that means that the fire's constantly burning, right? And like if we choose to view it more as like, yo, social platforms are a way for us to learn about all these other people that are keeping the flame going while I'm here too. You know, if we try to view it as a way of like, yo, I want to learn how this female producer in Nebraska makes these awesome hi-hats on Logic. You know what I mean? Like it's a way to gain respect for other people that are in the same position as us, but also just learn, you know? And so I'm trying to reshape my mind into that perspective for sure. And you know, it's something that I've got a few friends who just are like, man, you know, screw social media. Like I don't care about it. And then, you know, I've got my girlfriend who she's part of what she does is she's an influencer. You know,
Yeah.
she's an actor and an influencer. And so both of us are like, we can't stand social media to a certain degree, you know, because it takes so much of our own energy and stuff. But then, you know, it's also an opportunity for us to learn stuff constantly. And so she'll find cool things. She'll be like, hey, look, check this out. And then sometimes I'll find things, and it's all dependent on how we look at it. You know what I mean? Because there are tools everywhere. There's also distractions everywhere.
Oh, there
You know,
definitely
so
is.
just got to yeah, try to use everything as a tool. You know.
Definitely understand that. All right. What we are gonna do here, actually, we're gonna take a quick breather here. We're gonna take a couple of minutes. So you can go ahead, grab some food or some water if you'd like. Use the restroom if you'd like, because I know that's something I have to do. But we will be right back. When we come back, we'll kind of go a little bit more into discussion about touring.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so see you guys in just a couple of minutes, and we will get started on that conversation.
You still Thanks, man. Yeah, so touring is there's a few different ways you can go about touring. My first experience with touring was in 2012, I believe. And I think we started doing just kind of like weekend runs, right? So we were based in San Jose, and so California, we're pretty lucky, right? There are quite a few cities out here that we can play, right? In Northern California, Southern California, Central California. So touring out here is pretty convenient. Not every state's like that, but I guarantee that in every state there's, what you refer to as like an A market, a B market, a C market, D market, whatever, right? And your A markets would be like, if you live in California, they would be like San Francisco, Los Angeles, right? Your B markets would probably be like San Jose, Oakland, Sacramento, San Diego, and then your C markets would probably be like, I don't know, like Fresno, Stockton, just some of the much smaller markets, right? Smaller cities. Typically, it's based by popularity, right? Popularity of the city, the types of venues, right? And so we would start by just playing house shows. House shows were really popular. I don't know if it's as popular as it used to be when I was 19, 20 years old. But that was like a every weekend thing. There were always house shows going on. And so we would play house shows. And we started, just playing around the Bay Area. And then once we got an invitation to play, our first out of town show was in North Hollywood at a venue called Amplify. And we didn't know at the time, but it was a pay to play. And they're like, yeah, like you guys can play, if you guys can sell these tickets, like you guys can make some money. We need you guys to sell at least. They were cool. They were only asking us to sell 5, and there were only 4 bands playing. So it wasn't as shady as some of these people do pay to plays now, but regardless, it was still a pay to play. We didn't know that, but we were able to sell the tickets because we had family and friends that were in Hollywood. So it was whatever. Playing that show, we met another band from San Diego. So then 2 months later, we did LA, San Jose, and San Diego. And so, it's a slow process, but once you know people that are in different cities, it really kind of opens up the ability to tour. The way that I always kind of went about touring once it kind of got to the point where we were doing multiple states is I would start booking about, I learned that you have to start about 3 to 4 months at the earliest, right? Like the sooner you can start, the better. But if you're not playing A markets, playing big venues and stuff, you're pretty safe doing 3 to 4 months. But if you're booking bigger things, obviously, 6-7 months is pretty typical. It's kind of just it can be a shot in the dark kind of process where if you don't know anybody but you want to try and get into to play at certain cities, what I would do is I would literally just write down the names of every venue I could find with every email I could find, and I would just email them a press kit. I would write a 5 to 6 sentence personal, maybe not 5 to 6 sentences, maybe like 2 to 4 sentences of like a personal message at the beginning, attach the EPK, and just kind of hope. Some venues, some cities, C markets, D markets, you'll get a yes, and they'll be more generous in terms of like, if they give you a guarantee or not. In places like LA, San Francisco, getting a guarantee is really difficult, let alone getting booked can be really difficult. And so that's really when having the network of people that can really play a big role. Which networking, right? We didn't really talk too much about networking. That's super important, and that's something that wasn't really stressed so much to me when I was coming up, younger, doing music independently and stuff. But it's absolutely the most important thing, being nice to everybody, is super important. Which, to be totally real, like that's something I had to kind of learn the hard way. Like I've always been somebody that's, been too confident at times of sharing my opinion. And sometimes that can really bite you. Sometimes if you let your emotion get the best of you, it can really screw you over, So It's important that when you're working with other people, even if you're unhappy about the circumstances, right? Like even if you have to park blocks away from the venue and carry your stuff, like even if bands drop out last minute, like you got to try and keep your composure about that stuff, because it's all the difference in getting an invitation back somewhere or to somewhere new and nobody wanting to book you, and that's a very real thing. So you got to always remember why you're doing what you're doing, because touring independently is very difficult. If you have a label that supports you at touring, that is awesome. That's not something that I've ever been able to experience. But it makes all the difference. Sometimes having other people book your shows really takes the weight off. Having a tour manager can really help. That's not something, those aren't things that Till I Fall ever had. We were 100% independent in the sense that I would book the shows. Zach was responsible for making all of our promotional material. And then, I did the majority of the emailing, because I would route it. So it'd be easier for me to know kind of the order of what to attack. Facebook groups were a huge help, but so was Yelp, to be honest with you. We booked a lot of shows over Yelp by just looking up, live music venues. And, you don't want to play at places that don't have good reviews, because if people aren't going to naturally go there for music, probably not the best place for you to play. Don't be above any venue, because you don't know who's going to be where. And at the end of the day, you want to play music for people. And if there are people there, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter where you're playing. If you're playing in a coffee shop that is made of all cement and brick, okay, well, guess what? Now you're playing an acoustic show, because that's probably going to be the best way for people to hear your music. You have to be able to adapt and adjust and not have an ego about it. Because you're gonna lose your patience often, on tour. You're gonna get discouraged often on tour. And at the end of the day, if you make it about, like what we were talking about earlier, Justin, if you make it about numbers and you make it about followers and you make it about everything but the music, you're gonna lose sight of it. And I have fallen to that myself, man. You know what I mean? Like one of the last tours we did was, it was a big one. We were out for, on and off for like 3 months. And I think at the end of it, we played something like 50 something shows. And there were shows that, we would get to the venue. I might as well just tell this story. It's something I'm not very proud of, to be totally honest, but it was a huge growing moment. We got to this venue in the city we were playing. It was the first time we'd ever played this venue. And it was pouring rain. We had to park like 8 or 9 blocks away from the venue and carry all of our stuff, from the 8 or 9 blocks away to the venue. We had to carry it up 4 flights of stairs, and it wasn't the venue that they told us it was going to be, right? Like it wasn't what they, we had to adapt and adjust. And this was like the second or third show in a row where something like this happened, right? And we were really sick of it. And then to top it off, the direct support canceled, like at load-in. And it was something that we were really frustrated about, and we lost our cool. I lost my cool, and I let my mouth run, and I was the asshole, and it hurt us. And it was a frustrating, embarrassing, exhausting, defeating situation, because we not only did we lose a show, like because we ended up just saying, you know what, like there's so much drama around this, like we're just not going to play. And so we left. And we let our emotions overcome our goal, and we let our ego and our pride and our temper overcome our goal, which was just to play music, share our music with people, And if I could go back, I would just remind myself why we were there, because if you lose sight of your goal, which is to share your music and to play music for people, if you lose sight of that, then you're doing something else. The second it becomes anything other than playing music and sharing your music with people, then you've already lost. You know what I mean? Then it really doesn't matter, how many followers you have. It doesn't matter if your songs are good. It doesn't matter, because then at that point you're chasing something else, So always keep it about the music. And you may find that touring isn't for you. That's something that, to be totally honest, I don't know if I ever want a DIY tour again, because I don't know if it's for me. I did it for 5 years, 6 years. That actually, I did it for 8 years. I did it for 8 years, and I met a lot of really great musicians, heard a lot of really great bands. I'm not sure that's the route for me anymore. Doing DIY touring. Like, I love performing. I always want to be able to perform it, but to be honest, the people that do DIY touring full time are a different breed. They're some of the most kind-hearted, hardworking, selfless, fun people, and they're people who, if the venue makes a last minute change, it doesn't throw off their whole day. You know what I mean? They're people that can adapt and adjust quickly on their feet, and they don't have an ego about it. And that's what you need to have. I'm somebody that, I get so anxious the second there's a last minute change. Oh my gosh, man. Like, just in my day-to-day life, like, if there's I need to go to a store last minute on my way home from work. Oh my God, I'm so anxious now, because that means I'm gonna sit in traffic for an extra 20 minutes. And like, what? Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter, but for me, I learned that, I don't get my fulfillment from DIY touring, so if it is something you do, I highly recommend that everybody does it, to be honest, because it is fun. I have seen this entire country because of DIY touring, and I was able to do all that before the age of 30, and so I do encourage everybody that has an itch to do it. Be safe, be smart. Don't be reckless on the road, because it is work. It is work, and it is exhausting, but it's also incredibly fulfilling. So do it, but be smart. Remember why you're there, and keep it about the music. It should always be about the community and the music, first and foremost. So yeah, man, that's about all I gotta say about that.
What's life like on the road while touring?
Really depends. The nicest, the nicest we've ever had it was, we got to stay in this really nice suite at I think it was a Harrah's in Reno. And we got to do that because it was the end of the tour, and we profited at the end of the tour. So we're like, like, let's get a nice suite for the night, and like, let's just have fun in Reno, and let's just, and that was a special occasion. You know what I mean? We each got to sleep in a bed. We each got to have a hot shower. We each got to have a good meal and enjoy ourselves. But 90% of tour is sleeping when you can. It's being tired. It's going without a shower sometimes, or it's using, baby wipes as your means of cleaning yourself for the day. Sometimes I have $7 for the next 3 days, and it's 8 a.m. So I've got 9 meals that I need to figure out off $7. It's figuring out how to balance your money, figuring out how to give yourself what you need to be 100% every day, while not having everything at your disposal. But it's also being in a different city, in a different state every single day with your best friends, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, if music can bring you that opportunity, that's you win. You know what I mean?
I think the hardest thing for me was always the fact that, like, I always liked the idea of being able to go to state with, some of my best friends and everything like that. But my other issue is the fact that it's a little bit, I think it also is a lot harder for people with, like, certain dietary restrictions. So that becomes a little bit more complicated as well, especially for me, pretty much almost being 100% vegan. But I know a lot of different food chains and stuff have adapted a lot more and everything, which helps out a ton. The problem is they're still beyond expensive. So it's just like how to manage your money on something the food market takes advantage of per profit, and their margin for profit is beyond significantly like more than you can actually afford.
Oh yeah.
So if you are someone who is able to eat fast food like all the time, and you're fine with it, and you can still manage to like exercise and be healthy and get some kind of sleep, if you can even do any of that, good on you. For me, it would literally never happen. Like my dietary restrictions are so insane that I would literally never be able to. The most and the furthest I've ever gone to play a show was Vegas.
Oh, sick.
That was the furthest, and that's when I was still in helping out as a fill-in guitarist for a little while for a band called Perfect Sense back out in Arizona. And we had a lot of fun. The only other, I mean, I know what you mean by certain places you stay at can be sketchy. I mean, I've walked into a place where I legitimately saw bed bugs. I've seen other places literally just bugs crawling around on the mattress, and I'm like, I'm sleeping in the goddamn van.
Oh, bro. I just, only because we're taking it there, I just gotta give a quick shout out to what was it, Motel 5, Motel 6, whatever. Yeah, Motel 6. Shout out to Motel 6, because once upon a time we were in Bend, Oregon. Yeah, shout out to Bend, Oregon. And we get into our apartment, right? We played our release show, not apartment, our hotel room. We played our release show in San Jose. We drive straight to Bend, Oregon from the show, right? So we get in super late. We get to our hotel for the night, and there's a syringe in the bathroom with a tie-off.
Oh, gee.
So we left right away, and we got real busy on Twitter, and then we got a few free nights at Motel 6. So moral of the story is that if you get wronged by a company on tour, complain about it on Twitter, and they'll hook you up. Because yeah, it's you.
Twitter's
you
the place to talk shit and to talk smack to get what you want.
Hey, you know what? All that I'm saying is that you see how some places really do not care at all about their customer service or their
being
quality
a business
of
person
product.
myself. Oh, believe me, I know.
Oh
it's sad.
It's awful.
Dude, that's intense.
Yeah, that was a pretty disturbing one. That was like, whew, okay. Well, we don't want to sleep here, obviously. The bed bugs thing, absolutely. That's very real.
I've never been to Bend. I mean, I'm not that far away from like Oregon. I think from Bend, from where I am, I think I don't know, approximate 3-hour drive if I had to guess. But like, for all the times that like I've been through, actually quite a couple of times since I've been through Oregon, everything has been like so nice. But don't let that cloud your judgment either, people. Just because a place looks nice doesn't mean they're always going to give you the best service, and being nice are two completely different things.
Don't get me wrong, I got nothing but love for Oregon.
It's not Oregon, it's the sketchy like mother that's just decided to run the place.
It's everywhere, man. You know what I mean? You just gotta be safe on tour. That's the biggest thing. You just gotta be safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
learn all the precautions. Always have your phone charged. Like, keep your head on a swivel. Check the van. You know what I mean? Like, just be safe.
Have you ever had while on tour, have you had any issues with like people like trying to break into your van and stuff? Or because I know that's always been kind of like a fear of mine.
You know what? I don't know. Like, by no means are we like the hardest looking group, you know what I mean? But like, we've never had anybody like try anything. Like, it's always been, and I don't know if that's because we're social people, so like we just, you know, we say hi to everybody, you know what I mean? Like we're chill with 95% of the people we interact with, you know what I mean? You get the occasional person that, you know, tries to swindle you or something like that, you know what I mean? You just gotta stay on your feet. You just gotta stay smart, communicate with the people in your band, you know what I mean? Like, constantly just be aware of where you are, and just, you know, keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, because I know that's a lot of the issues, and you've seen so many reports online. I think the last one I saw was I know this was a while back already, but the last one I remember that I followed up with was Authority Zero got their van broken into, and a ton of stuff like was just stolen. And I was just like, oh my god. Because like I played a show with Authority Zero before and everything. Fantastic musicians, fantastic people.
Oh yeah.
Love them to death. I mean, and it's just weird because like yeah, they are more well known. They're on some more like major record labels and stuff and whatnot. And because of that, I think that adds on to be like, oh, they have really good equipment, so let's go ahead and be stupid and try to steal all their hard work and dedication and literally their life.
Isn't it Real Friends who like Real Friends have been robbed like every time they go on tour?
Oh yeah.
Or was it Sea Haven? One of
I-
those bands.
I
It was one of those bands. Yeah, it happens a lot. You just got to be
I'm
smart.
pretty
You
sure.
can't
I
lose
think
your
it
keys.
has happened to Real Friends as well, because I've talked to them before. Really nice dudes as well, and I've never talked to Safe Haven. Haven't had the opportunity. But yeah, I definitely know a lot of pop punk bands experience van break-ins, and all of their equipment and gear is just gone.
Yeah.
And like I just feel awful. Like I could only imagine. Like I remember getting my amp for the first time and separating with it. Just, I mean, there's a long story behind that. Like it's still back in, my parents' place. Like I said, I'm not going to go into it, but I don't have it. Well, another good reason is because it can't fit in my apartment. But besides space, it's just like the feeling of being separated with something you worked so hard to save up for, just to know it's gone or that you can't use it in some way, shape, or form. It hurts. It's almost like having what I would imagine. I mean, I can't compare it to this, but like your gear and your equipment as a musician are your children. Like they're your babies.
Sure.
If something ever happened to my guitar, someone took it, like I would beat the living hell out of them, and I'd be like, no, like this is my baby. Like, don't you dare. Like we take great pride in what we save up for in our instruments.
Oh, absolutely. But also, like, that's you need that. Like, you need
That's
that.
how you make your money,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, like you can't, you know what I mean? If something happens on tour, you gotta think quick, so you gotta make sure you protect your stuff at all times.
Dude, for all the times you've been on tour, have you ever had any bands come up to you and ask to borrow your gear?
Oh yeah, every time. Every time. Yeah, that's the most common
like
thing.
Guitars and stuff. And
no, not guitars. No.
I figured drum sets.
Ask, but I would always say no. Guitars for me is like nah. Like I'm not gonna trust you. Like no, and it's no disrespect to literally anybody, but I'm not gonna trust somebody else with the thing that I need most to play my show.
I'm right there with you.
Like,
that's the reason why I asked. I went through that before.
Like the head, like my head or my stack, like for sure. Like go for it. Like you're probably not gonna do anything. Like my cables, fine, no problem.
Thing's massive, I'll see
like,
it.
Like my pedal board, no way. Like not my pedal board, not my guitar. Like nah.
Yeah, I get that. That's the reason why I asked, because I remember playing a show and a guitarist came up to me. He's like, hey, so I forgot my guitar. And I'm just like, then I guess you're not playing then, are you? I saw him like looking at my guitar. I'm like, I ain't giving this to you. This guitar is expensive. I went through one of the world's shittiest jobs on the lowest minimum paid like wage just to barely save up for this.
Yeah,
just so
that's real.
I can be here. And I'm like, you are not touching this.
Yeah. Well, like that's all. Like, how do you forget your guitar? Like that's intentional. Like you get there expecting somebody's gonna let you borrow their stuff. Like, nah, bro. Like, no, you'll figure it out.
Like if you're a drummer and like you have like your floor tom is like damaged or something, sure, maybe the other drummer be like, yeah, just borrow my floor tom or something like that, right? Or if you need an extra pair of sticks, fine. Drums are a little bit easier within reason.
See, but with drums, within reason, absolutely. Because like a lot of drummers, like no snare, no cymbals. Like they will not share those.
Oh no, because people beat the living shit out of snares.
Right. 100%. And cymbals. It's stupid.
Yeah, that's another reason why my old drummer, he would never allow anyone to touch his drum set. They're like, can I borrow some of your stuff? And he's like, no. And like I get it. Like that was an expensive kit. Like he has a nice kit. And I'm like, I wouldn't trust anyone with that. That's your pride and joy right there. Yeah, but that stuff, if you're ever going to go on tour, if you're ever plan on going on a show, if you're a guitarist, don't be an asshole and bring your guitar. It's like claiming like, oh yeah, I'm a drummer. Oh, cool. What drum set do you have? Well, I actually don't have a drum kit yet. And you're like, excuse me? Then how are you a drummer? Well, I played at like a, I don't know. I play drums every now and then at a guitar center. And you're like, okay, come on. You might as well just buy them for all the times you've actually played on their kits. Like, don't get me wrong. I started off on drums and stuff too. It's not right for me, but if you're a guitarist, you're going to bring your guitar. You better have a guitar. If it doesn't work, get it fixed beforehand. I know things happen. That's why guitarists and musicians typically say get backup gear. Even it doesn't have to be the same quality, just something not incredibly cheap, but something within budget you can do and use. Still make it sound good, make sure you're good to go, and that's fine. So having a backup like guitar is always good to have, which I still need to invest in one. But it's like being an acoustic performer and be like coming up to a show, be like, hey, I forgot my acoustic. And it's just like, well, I guess you're not playing today, huh? And it's like, if there's no other acoustic performers and everyone's playing electric, and for some weird reason, let's just say you're an abomination who doesn't know how to play electric guitar, but you know how to play acoustic electric. I've seen that happen before. Yeah, figure that one out. You know how to play acoustic guitar, but you don't know how to play electric? Excuse me? But you own an electric acoustic? And they're both Fenders? The frets are the same? Okay. I'm gonna have to call out that person straight up. You're not a real musician. But dude, the things you hear while you are playing shows in general from other musicians, I think is some of the greatest things ever.
What do you mean?
It's not even from like bands themselves typically. So all right. So all right, I'm going to tell the story. So there was a band a couple of years back that I used to be in with some old friends of mine. We were in a metal band, and I was playing guitar. Other buddy of mine was playing guitar. Another buddy of mine was playing. I think he was the bassist, and then I had another friend at the time who decided that he wanted to. Actually, no, it wasn't a metal band. It was a pop punk band, and he was gonna be the vocalist, and I was just gonna do backup vocals and stuff. We had like maybe 1 or 2 songs, I think, but they weren't like ready to go yet. It was just more along the lines of where it felt like they just kind of wanted to just play a show because they're like, oh yeah, we got this. We practiced enough. And I'm like, that I know that doesn't, because we practice doesn't mean like we're ready for stage. I'm like, there's so much more preparation that goes into all this stuff. But lo and behold, we only ended up playing. We got booked for a show. It was for someone's like birthday party or something. And it was at some weird convention center. I guess the kid, like his father, like booked the place just because he wanted to play a show, and like that happened. And we get there. I have my gear. Everyone else has their gear as well. And you go to a show. I remember this one dude who set it up. He was in, I think there was a total of like 5 or 6 bands, and I think he was in like 3 of the bands that played that night. That alone is a red flag for me.
Yeah.
I not to
There's one of these
discredit.
in every music scene, man. There's one of these in every music scene, I promise.
Oh yeah, Arizona is also known for that. Not saying you're bad musicians, just you know who you are. You're just in multiple bands, and I just find it weird. Like, how do you have the time for that? Like, please explain. I wish I was able to do that, but I can't. Brain would explode. But I remember watching the show. My brother actually showed up too, which was actually kind of nice. And this, at the time, I was not really. I think I was starting to really figure out that like the band just wasn't really like. We were definitely not ready to play a live show yet, and we were, I think, even barely finished on like actually writing the songs. I don't know who let it get to their head. I'm very antsy about that. I won't go on stage unless I'm 100% sure that like I feel comfortable, at least knowing how to play the song. And it's like one of those songs where like it sounds cool, but for some reason it's so basic you kind of forget what notes you're playing. And you don't really properly remember how to play the song. And you know, it kind of went down that route a little bit, and we only ended up playing 2 songs. And for the rest of the time, we still had another like 25 minutes to play the show. And the rest of the time, since we had no music, I just straight up I brought my acoustic guitar with me too, because we had one acoustic song that I ended up actually taking away from the band, and actually I kept the guitar part for myself. I just removed all the lyrics. The lyrics weren't, well, what I personally would have gone with, but I wasn't the vocalist, so I guess don't fight for to be a frontman either, people. I'm looking at my camera thinking you guys can like see me right now, but just note I'm looking in your soul and at your eyes right now. Do not compete with other people in your band to be a frontman. Don't do that, especially like if you're a backup vocalist, you're allowed to sing, but in at least one time in your band, you're gonna experience a prima donna. So just notice the signs early, and make sure they can sing too. But I had my acoustic, and because we ran out of songs, I ended up playing my own original songs that I wrote for myself for my own acoustic project or for Without Hero. I should not have to play my band's music if I am in a completely different band that no one's ever heard of or ever heard of my other band in general. Did my songs go over well that I play? Yeah, of course, because I've done it so many times. Like, I know like the back of my hand after playing the same song day after day. Yeah, it gets pretty easy to memorize. But then after that whole part was a little awkward to begin with. But then after the set, I had some kid come up to me. He said, "Hey man," he's like, "I really enjoyed your set. He's like, I understand you guys only had like 2 songs or whatever, but he's like, the extra stuff you did for your original work was, it sounded really good." And I'm like, "Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you." So we got to talking and didn't think of anything at the time. And I was like, "You just here to watch?" Or he's like, "Oh, I'm actually playing." He's like, "I'm actually up on stage next. I just want to talk to you to let you know that like you did a good job." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And we started talking about his band. And that's where this whole situation comes in, where people try to divert conversation thinking they can still manage to squeeze in like some form of self-gain. If you're the next upcoming band and you're trying to butter me up just so you can use my guitar because you forgot yours, don't be that guy. Do not butter me up. Just straight up ask me. Yeah, I'm gonna say no, but I at least just have the balls and the common courtesy and decency to be like, "Hey, I feel like an asshole right now. Either my guitar, like if your guitar broke, I still would have said like, no, but like, don't be like. There's different ways to approach it. Like, I'm not gonna be a dick to someone and be like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's not something I can do. I apologize." I'm always very friendly about that. And like, maybe I'm like, I can ask like one of the other bands here since I know them. And like, maybe we can see if someone can lend you a guitar or something, find a different alternative. And he's like, would you be willing to do that? And he's like, I feel really weird. I'm like, yeah, not a problem. But like, I'm not saying like, don't be like a dick to them. Be like, you stupid SOB. Like, you're a guitarist, you forgot a guitar. Like, you don't know what the situation is either. It's still a funny situation regardless. Quite humorous. But you know, things happen. Guitars break, strings randomly break, tuning pegs fly off. Guitars aren't perfect. But if someone asks you for that, and it like kindly just decline. But if you know someone else, like offer them something else to be like, hey, although I might not be comfortable with giving you my guitar, you don't have to list of reasons because you don't need to. It's you said no already. Offer be like, hey, maybe we can like see if someone else has a guitar you can use, or if they have a backup guitar or something, which ended up happening. So I'm not saying like if you're in a band, just don't be a dick in general. Like respect all musicians. So like in that manner, there are other times. Actually, before I go on to this story as well, Brandon, have you ever been in a situation where you were on tour, if you're playing a show, and there's a band playing with you that maybe you just never heard of or something like that, and they end up playing? Has it ever gotten to the point where you just could not listen to it and you had to walk out? Like, not out of like disrespect, like you just couldn't do it?
Uh, nothing that comes to mind, man. You know, like it's pretty it's pretty important to like stick around and watch. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Yes,
got to pay that
always.
forward. You know, I mean, like you know, with a band like Till I Fall, you get the bad promoters that don't actually listen to you. They just put you on a bill and they assume that you're a hardcore band.
Ugh.
So like we've had to sit through a lot of hardcore shows, and like you know, like it's no disrespect to that genre, no disrespect to bands like that.
Yeah,
I've never listened to that style. Like it doesn't
it's not your cup of
hit
tea.
yeah, it doesn't hit the feelings for me, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
um, you know, but it's like you watch, you know, you if you got to step out for a little bit because it's too loud or it's just, you know, you want to catch your breath, like that's cool, you know what I mean? Like there's you don't nobody's gonna make you sit there and watch the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like the band wouldn't want you to feel forced to sit there and watch the whole thing, you know what I mean? But like if it's not your vibe, like, you know, I definitely will watch first 3 4 songs and step out, get a drink, catch some air, go back in for the last 3 4 songs, you know what I mean? Like it's part of the support, you know, and that's again, when I was younger, sure. Like when I was a punk ass 15, 16 year old going to shows, like if I wasn't about it, then yeah, like I would leave the room. Like, and you have that right, you know, you have that right as somebody that goes to shows, you know, but having been on the other end of it, like it definitely means the world when people decide to stick around for even if it's a 30-minute set. If they watch 15, 20 minutes, like that means the world. You know what I
that's a
mean?
lot of
So
time. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like if you can get them in there for 60% of your show, like that's, you know, like that's cool, you know? But
The
yeah.
only reason why I bring that up is because out of all of the local and giant shows I've been to, I have 99.999% of the time always stuck around, even if it wasn't like my cup of tea.
So
Because my brother always, he's the person who told me that, and he's like, you know, you gotta show respect to the bands. Like, it's not saying that like he was just teaching me this before we actually got started into playing shows
sure.
and stuff, or just really going to shows when I was younger. And then he's like,
Yeah.
you always stick around, you know, tell me all the basics. But there was, and the reason why I only put that percentage, because there was that one time I could not stand listening to a band. I don't remember who they were. I don't remember. The only thing I remember is that it was a random show that I wasn't playing the show. It was just a random show I went to, and it was at the Nile Theater Underground in
Oh
Mesa,
yeah.
Arizona.
Great
That I
venue.
just that place was like my home. Um,
Yeah.
worked there for a little bit too. But
That's like,
yeah, there was just one band I could not do. Like, I thought it was like the worst thing I've ever heard. And, like, I've never done that before. And then even got to the point where I realized my brother walked out too, and like he will put through everything. And I'm a little bit more like nitpicky. But you know, I always show my respect towards all artists and all bands because once again, I know what it feels like too. I've seen people watching my stuff when I first started and just straight up leaving. And when you see that, it's like they can be going up for air, they had to go to the bathroom, they're getting a drink, maybe they're meeting a friend who just came. You don't know, but it's that anxiety of, oh my God, they left, or like, am I not doing well? And it just happens. Like you mentioned, but you know, it's sometimes you find that band, that weird odd gem out that's just, you can't do it. And like you said, like it is your freedom to walk out if you want. Like, you paid for the show, so you can stick around for as long as you want. I tried sticking around. I sat through a good 3 to 4 songs, I think. And I was just like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm sorry.
yeah, see, like, to me, like, at that point, that's fair. If you watch 3 or 4 songs and after 3 or 4 songs you're like, you know what, this just isn't my vibe, that to me is fair. It's the same thing as if you're listening to a record, right? If you start a record and you're giving this band a fair chance, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna check this out. If 3 or 4 songs into the record you're not digging it, you're probably not gonna finish the record, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, give the band the respect of at least listening, right? Because it's cool. If it's not your cup of tea, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not disrespectful, you know what I mean? But you gave them a chance, right? You gave them a chance. And at the end of the day, I think that's, if you can at least give the band performing a chance, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. It's all good. But just be respectful. Show up, watch 3 or 4 songs, leave, you know? Like, it's all right.
I mean, there's definitely also been times where I've definitely held some grudges towards certain bands. A lot of different reasons. Some in particular that I can remember is there was supposed to be a time where this other band in my band at the time, we were I was in the band with my brother, normally am, and we were gonna play a show or something, and we were gonna do some cross promotion work. We had like 2 different shows, but we thought, like, if we just worked together since we were friends and all, that like it would, you know, go like the full like 1,000 miles to help advertise, promote each other, that we can help each other out. Because the other band had a little bit more. We're getting started, but we've worked with them a couple of times here and there. Got to know each other really well. And they ended up taking all of the credit and did absolutely nothing back for us. Never expect anything from anybody. If they do it, awesome.
100.
Like, if they like, be a man of your word, and if you can't, then honestly, I just think you're a piece of shit. There's one thing, if like you can't do it, then you can't do it. Or if you just say, no, sorry, I don't want to, then fine. Like, at least you're being honest, right? But don't be the person be like, oh yeah, I'll help you out. Like, we'll get you blown up, and then you yourself take all the credit for your band and walk away and cease all contact with us. Don't do that. That is not cool. Not only that, immediately ended the friendship, but like, we're never helping out your band again. Like, don't be that person. It's just incredibly rude in general, and it's just, at least to have the common decency to, like, you know, just own up to it, right? There's been other times where the other one, it was just me being jealous. There was a one of my very first shows. It was a battle of the bands. It was at the Nile Theater, the Underground. I was playing a show to compete for a spot to open up for Stick Up Kid.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I fucking love Stick Up Kid. And younger me was like looking at my brother, and I'm like, dude, we need to do this. And he's like, oh my God, yes. So we tried for it, and unfortunately we didn't get the spot. However, there was a high school band that won, not because of how well they played and how good their music was is because they sold the more amount of tickets, because when you're in high school, you have more friends. If you were me and you were antisocial and didn't like to talk to anybody, it's a little bit harder to sell tickets. I thought when I was younger, it had to do more based upon, hard work, dedication, and really standing out from the norm.
Right.
That's typically how it is, and kind of not how it is at the same time. Entertainment music industry is a little, I mean, it's biased and it's all over the place, but we have
there's
moments.
politics, there's politics everywhere.
Yeah.
And it comes down to if you want to play, and like, I'm somebody that I never like to play that game, take it as it is or don't take it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I am. Like, if you want to do something with me because you like whatever I produce, or you think I'm a nice person, like, that's cool, but don't come at me with some angle. Like, I don't want to have to like kiss up and fake things in order to just,
we didn't make the promoter or not the promoter, but like, it just came down to money. We just didn't make enough ticket sales in order to play with the band, and now it's just like this.
That's trash promotion.
I'm like, you guys have no idea like how much I fucking love Stick Up Kid. Their music is like just like angelic. Like, me growing up as a pure pop punk kid, like, I was about that, man. And like, hell, I still listen to them to this day. Shout out to Stick Up Kid. I miss you guys. But Quinn, was I at that show? No, that was one of the very first shows. I actually played as the band for when we were now known as Down the Shore. Actually, I wasn't the vocalist at that time, I believe, either. I think I was just guitarist and, if anything, backup vocals. But that kind of taught me a little bit more of just like, the further you go on in the entertainment and like music industry, like, things, like you said, for politics, things aren't fair. It's just how it is. And sometimes you have to be a little bit like ruthless in order to get to where you want to be. Doesn't mean be a dick, just means you really have to go out of your way to really sell yourself and to prove to other people why you deserve and why you think you're worth that spot, or why someone deserves like to listen to you, or any form of time, or anything along the lines of that. Just every artist, I believe, has to go through, and this is a little segment I want to do, and I think it's really fun. And it's more of, I think it's just a fun game between just like all of us, specifically for like you and I, Brandon, but obviously everyone else who's ever played a show before. Either agree or disagree is something I really like. When you play a live show, if you're going to become, and this is my strong opinion, if you want to become a real musician, you have to play a show where no one shows up. And you just got to play. You're going to have those moments, and I feel like having that moment where you play a show and there's maybe one person that shows up, you still treat that show like there was millions of people watching you.
100.
But you have to experience that. For. Yeah. Dom was vocals. I think I was there. Really? I know you were still living in the same area as me at the time. Wow, were you actually at my very first, not my very first show, but like one of my very first shows for, actually, no, that was my very first show, I think, for Down the Shore. My very first show for Without Hero, I got to play with Broadway Calls, and I nearly cried. I was so happy. For anyone who doesn't know, Broadway Calls is one of my all-time favorite, like pop punk, like punk bands in general from Oregon. I played a show with them. I love them, and I really hope to hang out with them and hopefully play a show in the future with them again. But yes, Dom was the vocalist for Down the Shore. If you were there, that's some OG shit right there. That's cool. So another thing also is just because there's a lot of people who show up to a show, you don't call it a sold out show for your band either. Don't do that. That's very egotistical in my opinion. If it's a sold out show, it's a sold out show. If it's for like a larger band, just admit it's for the larger band. Like, it's cool if you played a sold out show, but I've heard some bands be like, yeah, we played a sold out show. We did pretty great. And then I looked into it. I'm like, you played with a band that has over like 5 million like followers on Facebook. I'm like, dude, come on. And I'm like, yeah, your band is good, but like, don't steal the credit. Like, share the credit at least. Don't be that person. What are some things like you've experienced while like playing shows that you think is just like an absolute like do not do kind of thing that you've noticed or recognized? Because people should know this.
If you're not playing, like if it's not your set time, do not walk up onto the stage. Like, unless they ask you to come up, do not come up to the stage. Like, that's not your space if it's not your time. You know, I've seen a lot of people like do that, and it's really uncomfortable for everybody. So don't do that.
Do people try coming up and like start like singing and stuff? Or
yeah, and that's always really weird.
Especially when you can't sing.
yeah. That's a no-no. I don't know. I mean, just be cool. You know what I mean? Like, you're a guest. You're a guest just like everybody else. Just because you're playing the show doesn't mean you can disrespect the space.
Yeah.
You know, like, keep it cool. Clean up after yourself. Be respectful. Help people that need help. You know? I don't know. My opinion isn't always the opinion of what's going to get you ahead. It's just my opinion of what, I've seen. Like, make it about the music. Keep it about the music, Have fun. Be respectful. Keep people safe. If you see something that's shady, point it out. And
if someone falls, always help them up.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
For the people who don't do that, you're the problem.
Yeah, I gotta say, honestly, I've never seen that in my life. I have never seen somebody fall down and people not help them. You know what I mean? Like, it's absurd to me.
It's also why I love like the scenes I'm in. Like, since I started off in the punk scene in Arizona, everyone always helps each other up.
Oh yeah.
There was nothing that had to do with that, but I mean, I had some complications with certain individuals in like the punk scene and stuff. But I'm not going to get along with everybody. But that's kind of one of those situations. But I gotta say, my favorite community out there in Arizona actually was the metal scene. By far, like, not comparing and contrasting the level of nicest, because if you're a nice person, you're a nice person. But that community, they made me feel even more somehow at home than I've ever felt before. And it was a new beginning for me getting into the metal scene, because when I started filming and helping out for, actually, when our guest Paul comes in for Dead of Winter Festival, I helped him film his metal fests for 2 different years. And I mean, beyond honored, and the bands are fantastic, nicest people ever. Some of the bands, wasn't my cup of tea. I still stuck around because I had to film them, and plus I wanted to talk to them, congratulate them for playing the show and helping out with the music venue, and me being me and being nice to everybody, because I can't not be nice to somebody. But the metal community has always made me feel so beyond at home. They are so caring in like a different way that I can't even begin to describe. Like, the punk community is like that too, but something about the metal scene, like, I mean, they're like one and the same almost, but I don't know how to describe it. If anyone know what I'm talking about, who's still living in the like the Phoenix metro area, if you know what I'm talking about as far as the metal scene, like, let me know in like the comments like below here. If you are watching like the VOD after this live stream, if you're part of the community or even the part of the punk community, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, the metal community is just so unbelievably generous. Like, they will go out of their way that help you to like, I don't even like, there's no out of bounds for them. And it's just something I love. But yeah, always help out everybody, and you'll make a lot of friends that way. Or if you really want to make friends very quickly, which I do not recommend, be a promoter and jip people out of paying the bands that you put on the bill. I'm staring with such intent into the webcam. Keep forgetting it's not actually on. Cause that.
Wait, did you say rip off bands? You're encouraging people to rip off bands? Is that what you're saying?
100%. Take the money and run. That's what a promoter is, right? No, to any promoters out there, I know. I've tried being in your shoes. It sucks. I get it. It's hard. That's why I quit. I can't do it. It's not for me. And plus I don't have the money for that. But if you are a promoter and you are booking a band and you promise them pay and you don't pay them, expect hell. I'm just going to say it. If you promise pay and there's a contract as well and you try not to do it, there's a contract, which means you can be sued. So, even if there's not a contract, if you promise pay, keep your word and be like, oh, I didn't make enough money. Well, that's not my problem now, is it? I fail to see where that's my problem. Taking a quote from Spider-Man 1. But, you know, just don't be shady. Like, that's just it in a nutshell. If you want to be a musician, be nice and don't be shady. You'll make a lot of friends. Good friends.
Fact. That's a fact. It's a fact.
Quinn, I remember watching your brother leave. Then yeah, that sounds like him. Then the next song you wait. And then the next song you and then when they finished, I came up outside and I was like, where'd everyone go? Oh, right, yeah, because when we found out a little bit like closer towards all that, yeah, my brother and I got so pissed. Like that was legitimate, like I think like anger right there. We're just like, you gotta be kidding me. I don't remember the band's name, which just I mean they're not even around anymore. They broke up, they came back, they broke up, they came back under a different name, they broke up, and I'm like, you guys have some problems you need to fix. But you know, not that it was wrong or anything, like, kudos to them for doing something that I desperately wanted. I know I still take pity on that. Like, I still get angry to this day because, like, I feel like I deserved it. Like, my brother and I worked our asses off. We practiced nonstop for, like, weeks and weeks and weeks. We're, like, for our vocal parts, for our back and forth parts, for guitar, bass, making sure everything was perfectly in sync. We make sure we had our stage presence ready. We made sure like we were in like tip top like you know, fitness level and everything. Like we had everything like set up like to a T. And it was just because we didn't make enough money by like a couple of high school friends. And yeah, I'm salty about it. I'm allowed to be. And it happens. Not a bad thing. It's just, you know, you're allowed to be salty. Hell, there's a lot of bands I wish I could play with that I never had the opportunity to, and some other band that I see that I don't think is that great had the opportunity, but I'm just like, you know what? Good for them. Like, you have to have that mentality. You have to be like, you know what? I may not like them, but they did something well enough that they got to play with one of your all-time favorite bands. So clearly they did something well, and that needs to be acknowledged and appreciated. And that goes for any genre. I think that's another very important thing to keep in mind too, and it's something you and I kind of discussed a little bit too. It's just like, don't take pity on like other people, or don't feel like discouraged because someone else had the opportunity. Your opportunity can come. You just got to keep working for it, and even if it comes once, you still got to do it. You hit your goal. It's not impossible. Playing with bands is honestly very easy to do. It's just a matter of, you know, get yourself out there, work hard, and try to connect with the band and see if you can set something up. Don't be afraid to message them. Don't be afraid to send a professional email to their tour manager to try and set something up. There's nothing wrong with that. Worst comes to worst, they say no. But go out of your way to do that. I've never done that with music, but I've done that for gaming developers and stuff. And that's why I'm able to beta test and alpha test like a lot of different games now. Because I'm just like, I'm just going to email them, see if they need help. And if they say yes, cool. Then they allow me to help out. If they say no, not at this time, maybe in the future, at least they have my name in their data bank now, right? Good way to get yourself out there. It was the guitar distortion. It was so much. Every note sounded the same. Oh my God, I remember that too. I remember the sound. Even thinking about that, it gives me tinnitus.
Justin, sorry to interrupt you, brother. I actually have to dip out, friend. I need to start getting ready for my lessons this evening.
Oh, you're good, man. Thank you for cutting me off. I would have kept on going.
No, right. Hey, it's easy to listen, man. It's easy to listen. Thank you so much for letting me join you today. I appreciate it.
No, not a problem. If anyone ever wants to talk to him again, he is part of the Discord server, so please feel free to message him. He'll get back to you as soon as he can. If you want any further information on him, all of his links and everything will be in the description below. But until then, Brandon, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being a special guest. Take care. Have fun on your lessons, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it, man. Have a great day.
All right, thanks. You too, man. All right. And with that being said, I am going to conclude this whole session here. So thank you guys so much for watching once again. I greatly appreciate it. For anyone who's watching the VOD, I hope you guys enjoyed. There's not going to be that many videos left for me to do since I'm going to be taking that prolonged break for a little bit just so I can kind of chill and focus on some other projects that I would like to do. If I randomly come out of the blue and randomly decide to make a video again, don't yell at me. It's just because my ADD is just a pain in the ass and just kind of makes me do whatever. But until then, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it for anyone who joined in today. Once again, Brandon, thank you so much, brother, for being here and taking over 3.5 hours of your time to talk with me. I greatly appreciate it. Shout out to Till I Fall. Shout out to all, basically what I mean by all the members in there. I hope to see you guys in the Discord server. If you would like to join, tell your friends about it. Let's chill. Let's play some games together. Let's write some music if given the opportunity. Hopefully we can talk. Same with the rest of everyone who's in the community. Same goes for you as well. But thank you guys again. And I'm off to go be playing some video games because I'm in a video game mood. But until next Entertainment Talks episode, we'll continue with the entertainment world and industry is brutal. Part 3, we'll have another special guest. Who that special guest is, stay tuned. And if you would like to be kept up to date as well, join the Discord server. So, I will talk to you guys later. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay clean. Stay awesome. I'll talk to you guys later.